It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour with
The Mixed Martial Arts Hour back in your life on this Monday, October 26, 2015. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Halwani inside our New York City studio. That is not the right music, and the music is gone. Good start. It is great to be here with you on this Monday afternoon. We've got a good show planned following. What happened to my music? I need that. I need that to start the show. I guess it's gone forever. Well, UFC Dublin was this past weekend, and there it's back. A little loud? Okay. UFC Dublin back this weekend, and it was a show that was hit by a whole bunch of injuries and whatnot, but it ended up being rather entertaining. The main event was very entertaining. Louis Smolka with a big win over Paddy Houlihan, so of course we will talk about that. Fortunately, Joseph Duffy was unable to fight, suffered a concussion a week before the fight. Tried to get him on the show. Apparently he has some kind of exclusive with an outlet in Ireland, I believe, so we'll hear from him at a later date. And this show's kind of gone up in the air a little bit today, but we'll figure it out. Here's what's happening today. At around 3:25, we're going to be joined by Dustin Poirier. He was supposed to fight in the main event. We'll talk about what's next for him. Ben Rothwell became sort of the hero of this event. He was supposed to fight in the co-main event and showed up there with no opponent and just became a huge fan favorite. And it was pretty cool to see. Ben really embraces the fans very well. So we'll talk to him about his experience. He's still in Ireland, believe it or not. 2:45, we'll talk to Patrick Cummins. He has a big fight coming up on November 7th against Glover Teixeira. We were supposed to be joined by John Kavanagh at 2:25, but he can't make it anymore, so we'll figure that out a little later on. Alexander Gustafsson is going to join us at around 1:45. Oh, we were supposed to be joined by Vitor Belfort at 2:05, but at around 11. Here's the short story there. Let me get this off my chest now. I booked Vitor on the show on Wednesday. All was good. Yep, 2:05 on Monday. All good. No problems, no questions asked. Very happy to have him on. He's fighting Dan Henderson on November 7th. Usually on Sunday, I reach out to all the people who are booked on the show on Monday to make sure that they remember that the show's coming up, and just give them a quick reminder. I did not hear back from Vitor's wife, who's the person I booked Vitor through. She's always very good to deal with. So I didn't hear back, but that's not uncommon. That happens sometimes. So right before I got into the studio today at 11, I texted her again just saying, hey, a reminder, we'll call you at 2:05. Uriah Faber likes to make fun of me for checking in too many times. But she wrote back and said, I hope that this interview is going to be 100% about... I don't know why don't I just read the text? Because I think that... I think it's valuable. Give me a second. Here it is. Just to make sure, he will be talking only in all caps regarding his upcoming fight, right? And I said, I'm always fair and considerate. There are certain things about this upcoming fight specifically that are going to be asked, not about this upcoming fight that are going to be asked, but in the end, it'll all tie back to the fight. Does that sound good? Can you send me the question? She says. I thought the interview was based on his next fight. We never said that, but again, you're promoting a fight. I get that, but it doesn't mean you have to solely. I mean, Chris Weidman was on the show last week. We didn't solely talk about Luke Rockhold. Anyways, I said I don't write my questions in advance. I never have, but I give you my word. I will be fair. I hope that that means something to you guys. And I wanted Vitor on to help promote his fight, and I will not be causing any harm. Okay, please know, she writes, Deadspin. I'm not sure about the name. No Deadspin questions, TRT, or any past TRT results. Vitor is giving you his valuable time. I believe we can count on you. And then I wrote back, this is his first interview, I believe, since that story came out by Josh Gross. So if it's not addressed in any small capacity, it will make not only him, but me look very bad. So I said, I don't want to harp on this, but I feel like it needs to be addressed. She said, if Vitor had anything to say, he would have said it already. You asked me when the website released any info, and we didn't give you a word. I'm sorry, Ariel, but if you were going to ask about that, unfortunately, Vitor won't be able to talk to you. It is totally different if you ask him in a press conference, but since he's giving you a direct interview, I don't want him to talk about it. And then I wrote back, I think that this is actually better than a press conference because it's one-on-one, and, we've had a relationship in the past. I said, I spoke to you about this last week, and you never mentioned anything like that, I didn't think that this would be a problem. Anyway, I'm sorry, Ariel. We can schedule for tomorrow when he is going to have a media day with UFC. I thought I could count on you as you could always count on us. And I don't even know what that means. I'm not the one who backed out from the interview. I'm not the one who put any stipulations on the interview. So I'm not sure I understood that last line or appreciated it. Nevertheless, he's not going to be on the show. And I'm curious. I talked about this story already. I don't think that it's, the biggest deal. I think it's something worth addressing. I wasn't going to spend 20 minutes on it, but, if he doesn't want to talk about it, as I told Eric Apple, that's fine. Just tell me on Wednesday, not after I promote it. And then I just wouldn't have booked him. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. Alexander Gustafsson, 145. Malki Kawa at 125. And we're going to be joined by Peter Carroll of Severe MMA and the... what's the name of that website? That paper that he's a part of, the Irish Mirror. But first, let me remind you that the MMA Hour is brought to you by Assassin's Creed Syndicate. There's the video game right over there. We appreciate their time. All right, and their support, of course. Let me go to the Skype machine and welcome in Peter Carroll. Peter, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you, Ariel? Good to talk to you again, man.
It is on you to put me in a better mood, all right?
Okay. I'll do
it. Compare Dublin on Saturday to last July. How did it stack up?
Straight away, I think you have to say that you can't actually compare them two events. I think last July is going to stand on its own forever, okay? As far as events that I've been to afterwards, I think that was absolutely fantastic on Saturday. But I think the problem with it is that it's always going to be compared to McGregor v. Brandao, and that night was absolutely magical. I think a few factors like that will never happen again. The unbeaten streak the Irish went on that night. And of course, McGregor, it's like the last time we're probably ever going to see him in one of these, well, for a few years in one of these small arenas, in the first round knockout over Brandao. This last weekend's cards, had a few casualties on the way in, and a lot of people were worried about it before it actually happened. But then when the event went down, I thought it was unbelievable. I thought that the crowd really got behind everyone, apart from obviously the 4 or 5 bottles that were thrown in at the end, and the tennis ball that actually hurt a photographer. That could have really marred the night had it not been so amazing in the earlier on. I thought it was fantastic, some of the scenes that we saw.
Well, what happened there? I didn't hear about that.
Just like it was pretty spectacular. Just as Louis Smoker finished the fight, a dead silence descended on the arena after these massive roars that were just happened seconds before. It just went completely silent, and then 4 or 5 plastic pint glasses or bottles were thrown in, and then a tennis ball was thrown in. I don't know how someone got a tennis ball in, but it hit a cameraman, and he actually suffered a kind of a cut to his face.
Whoa!
But that was kind of, we were really disappointed with that, because at Bama, which happened in September, there was a few bottles thrown in at the end, and all the Irish media were quick to point out that that wasn't Irish fans, that was the guys that came over to support another fighter, another international fighter. But it had to be the Irish guys, and how upset they were over the decision of that. I mean, the way the main event went. But I thought the main event was absolutely brilliant to watch. I loved it.
When someone pulls out of a fight the week of, it's not a huge blow right now for the UFC and the promotion in general, because all the tickets are sold. Now, they did offer refunds, but from what I understand, there weren't that many, and people have already invested, time, plans, money, all that stuff. So it's, I think, very rare they're going to pull out. I'm curious what happens the next time the UFC plans an event in Dublin. Are people now going to be slower to buy the tickets because of what happened to this card? Did you get that impression?
Yeah, I certainly did. And a lot of people seem to think that because we had them 2 late pullouts, that the UFC are going to come back with a monstrous card the next time. I mean, the fact that the place was still sold out, well, they haven't. I don't know if they released the official numbers yet. They didn't have them at the press conference, but it was pretty much sold out from what I could see. And I think the fact that we have there was a sold out stadium despite the two main fights on the card going missing. I don't think that really that would warrant the UFC having to come back with a monstrous card, unless it was something like Crow Park or something, which we still know is fairly elusive.
How did people feel about Dustin not taking a replacement fight?
You know, a lot of people were quick to criticize him, but you know, I can understand the situation he was in to a certain extent. You know, he was offered Norman Park, and Norman Park said himself, you know, he said, you know, he's coming off 2 losses. You know, he is the fight with Poirier. You know, maybe it doesn't make sense for Dustin Poirier. He was just entered the rankings there at lightweight. Yeah, I know Joseph Duffy wasn't in the rankings, but he certainly had a lot more momentum going into that fight than Norman did. But you know, I think a few people did criticize that. But you know, it is what it is. I think Dustin's into the last fight in his contract as well, so it's a very important fight for him. So I can understand why he didn't take that fight.
Was Joseph? I saw him in the front row. Did they show him on the big screen or anything? Did the fans have a chance
Yeah.
to react to him? How did they react to him?
Yeah, they reacted really well. You know,
Okay.
Joe was there all week in the fighter hotel taking pictures. You know, you could tell he was devastated. I mean, I can remember someone said he had bottled it or something earlier on the week, and you know, from what I hear, transpired there, it couldn't be further from the truth. You know, Joe was apparently counting out almonds to eat on Wednesday. You know, this before the announcement was made. John Gooden, the commentator, was telling me he saw him literally counting out almonds. You know, obviously worried about his weight cut. I was actually the TriStar guys, Eric O'Keefe and Tom Breeze, were in Team Rhino on Wednesday night just before this news had broken. And I was talking to them, and Eric O'Keefe is of Irish descent. He was telling me how excited he was to walk out with Joe. You know, he was kind of laughing that he'd walk out with the enemy, the English guy,
Yeah.
against Conor Pendrath. And then he'd be coming out to these big cheers. And I was literally on my way home, driving on my way home from Team Rhino, and my phone started going off. I had no idea what it was. And then I couldn't believe it to see that Joe wasn't going to be fighting. But you know, these things happen. I'm sure a lot of people, you know, me myself, you know, fighter welfare, that you know, we want to make sure these guys are healthy. You know, they're putting their bodies on the line in there. And certainly, Joe with the mild concussion, you know, it couldn't happen, unfortunately, for the night.
Do you have any problem with them sparring so close to the fight? He suffered this injury 7 days before the fight.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the first question I asked Rory McDonald, but Rory McDonald told me, you know, this wasn't any intense session. This was kind of like a freak accident. He kind of cited his own kind of pull out before the initial BJ Penn date. You know, he said like these are just freak accidents that are happening. Like at the end of the day, no matter how lightly they are training, they're still kind of shaping as if they're going to be hitting each other, and you know, and accidents can happen. You know, I'm just glad. You know, he wasn't able to fight, and then more damage could have been done. But obviously, you know, I can understand the fans' frustration. You know what I mean? That it was taken off the card. This was kind of meant to be all about Joseph Duffy on the way in. You know what I mean? That's what people were certainly excited about. Even when Ben Rothwell and Stipe Miocic were taken off the card, that you know, people were still like, oh well, Poirier and Duffy's going to be a monstrous fight. But in the end of the day, I thought Houlihan and Smokey, you know, it was a great main event. I know a lot of people had reservations about that, but I thought it was an enthralling bout. You know, I thought it was brilliant. Like, there's not many times a fight can spend that much time in the grappling realm.
Yeah.
And people are like cheering and roaring. Usually when a fight hits the deck, it's only, you know, a couple of minutes before the whole place is booing. You see it a lot of places. So I thought it was like a technical, aggressive, and exciting fight from both guys. I thought it was like the grappling equivalent of two guys standing in the pocket and winging haymakers at each other, you know, because they were sacrificing positions for submissions. Absolutely brilliant. You know, I loved it, you know, and Paddy was greeted like a national hero out there. The whole place were singing his name, you know. It was a big one for him. I think he ticked every box apart from the victory box, you know what I mean? And Louis Smoker looks absolutely brilliant as well.
Couldn't agree with more with everything you just said. It was so entertaining, and in fact, I prefer a fight like that more so than one where it's just guys, you know, swinging wildly at each other. Paddy looked to be, you know, as you said, a national hero. He got the big hero's welcome, and it was a nice story for him. He kicked off the card back in July of last year. Now he gets to headline it. It did seem like he was a little ticked off in the post-fight interview, saying that he never got the call to A, be the co-main event, or B, the main event. Did you get that impression as well?
Absolutely, you know, and you know, it's the kind of thing Paddy does. He just always looks forward. You know, I don't think he would have refused it. You know, I think he would have liked to been asked though. You know,
Yeah.
You know, and I think he was a bit down on himself after I spoke to him briefly, like, but I don't think there's any reason for him to be down on himself after that performance. You know what I mean? There was a main event missing there. He stepped in to do a job. You know, there was only, you know, when you look at that card, really, there was only two ranked fighters on that card.
Yeah.
You know, it was Darren Elkins and Aisling Daly, and respectively they were 13th and 15th in the rankings. You know what I mean? For Paddy and Lewis to go up there and fight the way they did, two unranked guys, you know, I thought it was absolutely unbelievable.
What'd you make of Daly's performance? And in particular, okay, first let's talk about her performance, and then I want to ask you about something she also said in the post fight. She finally gets her chance to fight in Dublin in a UFC octagon. She steps up. Did you think that she put on this great performance that tells the world that she's a contender? I know there was a lot of talk about her weight cut and her physique and all that. What do you think of it all?
I thought the interaction between the crowd and Daly really made the fight. You know, when she was walking out to the crowd to the song Zombie and she's singing along, it looks like she has tears in her eyes and the crowd were singing with her. I thought that was amazing, you know, and the atmosphere throughout that fight was absolutely incredible. I don't think, like, honestly, I don't think Daly has announced herself as a contender in the division there, you know, but Erica Almeida seemed a lot more awkward of an opponent in her debut than she did in Dublin. You know, the fight itself, you know, it wasn't the greatest fight of all time, but that's what the Irish crowd do. They make they make it just better. You know, I think they're nearly like having a fight on the card because people are tuning in to see that atmosphere,
right?
And that's what it really was. That's why it was so incredible. You know, Aisling, a pioneer of the sport in Ireland. I think about 5 guys were maybe training MMA when I started. You know what I mean? That was it. You know what I mean? The first world champion the country ever had. You know, to see her being received like the way she was on the night, that's what made it so special. You know what I mean? And for her to get a win, you saw how much it meant for her in there. But certainly, I don't think you could say that, you know, she's announced herself as a contender in the division on the back of the Almeida win. But it was a great performance to watch.
I thought her post-fight interview was fascinating because she said that she saw all these other guys, her colleagues, her teammates, become household names, and she was, you know, she was left behind because she was on the show because she couldn't fight on that. Well, not the first. I mean, it kind of feels like the first show in Dublin, but technically it was the second show in Dublin last July. Did you get that impression from her? Because I felt like she kind of kept that to herself up until that post-fight interview.
No, I was talking about it quite a bit in the lead up to the fight. You know, that was even like, if you consider, like, Neil Seery had made his debut the March before that show, but it wasn't until that show that people, you know, that the fans really started to recognize Neil. And then Paddy and Carroll had a massive launch pad that day. They had 2 brilliant performances as well. I really did feel like that was Aisling Daly's launch pad there. You know, the whole week we were kind of talking about this build up. I think for some reason she was actually quite worried to see if the crowd would. You know, I think there was that kind of like, will the crowd be as good? Will they get behind me? But on the night it was absolutely unbelievable, and that really was what that fight was about. Me, the lead up to it and everything. I talked about it quite a bit because, you know, it's going to be interesting to see now how many people get behind Ash, because that was a really memorable interaction the crowd had with her that night. It kind of reminded me of Series fight on the last card, the way the Fields of Attenroy broke out halfway through, obviously a song, and then they kind of go, no, whoa, when she was connecting with the shots at the end, the same way as Siri was against Phil Harris last year. But that was, you know, I think there was a few moments that will stick with me from that card, and certainly Daly's walkout to Zombie was one of them. Another one was how the crowd gave Carl Pendred a standing ovation as he left the octagon after his loss. You know, it was quite a one-sided loss that Carl suffered on the night, and to see the crowd kind of stand up and applaud him like that, that's what makes seeing these missiles being thrown into the octagon at the end so hard to take. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, it was very frustrating to see that, you know.
Okay, so Pendred, you know, Pendred is a very polarizing figure in the sport. You know this. He loses pretty badly in that fight to Tom Breeze. Breeze looked very good. You know, do you feel like he has a future in the UFC, or you're not impressed? You kind of shook your head there. What did you not agree with what I just said?
Oh no! I said I think you're right. Like, I think that was probably the worst time to lose here. Like, I think, you know, with so many cuts being made, Carl, obviously he himself has criticised his performances so far under the UFC banner. And, you know, that's 2 losses in a row. And, you know, that it's a very tough position for Carl to be in now. And I think the fact that Breeze looks to me like a guy that's going right to the top of that division. I was talking to the TriStar guys about him, and they all seem very, very high on him. It just so happened that a lot of people back in the day wanted them two guys to fight. It felt like that fight was a couple of years in the making, and Carl was kind of citing his experience throughout the lead up to it. And just on the night, he got caught with that left hand at the start, went down on one knee. When he got back up, his nose seemed to be broken. And, it wasn't long before Breeze was connecting with that again. And, for a guy that a lot of people see as so durable, you know what I mean? That was hugely impressive for Breeze to put him away in one round, I thought.
Do you think it would behoove him at this point to go down to another promotion, get his mojo back, get his confidence back, refine a few things, and then go for another run? Or do you think that he could still hang in the UFC?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's just the worst time it could have happened because, I mean, they're talking about all these cuts coming up for fighters.
Yeah.
Welterweight division is one of the most stacked divisions they have in there. I mean, like with just the numbers of fighters in there, and that fight, they're going to be looking at that, and they're going to be looking at his last loss as well. He hasn't put his best foot forward in both of them fights. That's the reality of it. I think if he was to be removed from the roster, I think 100% Carl would go to another promotion and fight. Like, this is something he's very clearly, like, he's got his heart set on it. He's been a world champion for Cage Warriors. I mean, it's not like the UFC hasn't gone that well for him. Don't get me wrong, but I can 100% see him going to a different promotion and fighting his way back up to the ranks if that situation doesn't fall that way.
Maybe go back to 185.
Yeah, he's very big, but then I'm sure he's going to be looking at that fight with Tom Breeze, and that guy's a monster.
Sure.
He's about the same size as John Jones. I couldn't believe it, the size of that guy, you know what I mean? So it's very hard for him to think about that now after being the smaller man in there, and, it was Breeze's stopping power that won him the fight, and then him to go back up to 185. But, I mean, with this IV thing, we could see a lot of people doing that, so it's gonna be interesting one to see, certainly.
So your boy Neil Seery, what's going on between you and Neil Seery? Are you guys gonna have like a buddy cop movie coming out? I feel like there's an interesting relationship there, and I know you've known him for quite some time. How happy was he got $50K, and I bet he's back at work on Monday, right? Today.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, as far as I know. Yeah. That's the way he is. He's a hungry man. He just keeps all them pennies. No one's ever going to see that money. He might go over and see Manchester United though. He's a big Manchester United fan, so I'd say he might go and see them. But other than that, he like Neil. Like, I mean, it's weird. Like, he didn't seem any happier after he won.
But that's not a life changer for him. Is that a life changer for him based on what you know?
I think it will change a few things, but I mean, he's doing well. Like, I mean, he has a full-time job and he's a UFC fighter. I don't think he's stuck. He has 4 kids, obviously, so I'm sure that will help out a lot because, as I'm often told, no matter how much money you have, once you have kids, it's all going to get poured into them anyway. So that's the way it is. But yeah, it was great. I personally felt he could have got a bonus with a couple of his performances before that one.
Yeah.
So when Andy Ryan came into the press conference just before it started, he told me that he didn't get it. I don't like. I wondered if anything's been said to him, and Andy had a big mopey. No, we didn't get it. But so it was good to see. It was good to see him getting it. He did really well. I think that was the best performance of his career we saw.
Really?
The other night.
Wow.
Yeah, I really do. He opened himself up. The two guys, they went at it exactly like they said they would. It was a really cool. He had the whole crowd dancing at the end. A classic dance song came on, and Seery and the Rhino boys dancing in the middle of the octagon. That was another one of them memorable moments for me now on the night.
I loved what he said afterwards as well. Something to the effect of, I'm probably not going to fight for the belt or win the belt, but I'm going to give you great performances. And it's always refreshing to hear that kind of honesty from a pro athlete. And I don't usually get hung up about the whole bonus thing, but I did think that Louis Smolka deserved something. That's not to say that they're not going to hook him up on the back end, but I was surprised he didn't get a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that could have been fighting a night as well.
And
really.
I thought he was going to get 100K.
Yeah, Till and Dalby were unbelievable as well. Because, I mean, I think the fact that Dalby managed to turn around that fight in the last round after Till was so dominant. I couldn't believe how easily he was dealing with the range there against Dalby in the first 2 rounds. So for Dalby to come back and just steamroll him in that last round to get a draw, that deserved to be commended as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about Seery, I thought, was when he was in the cage afterwards, and he was like, "Well, if anyone drops out, I'm always here." It was like, "No, they're gonna give you another fight, Neil. You know, don't worry about it. They'll probably match you up with someone." He's just, if anyone drops out, you know, it'd be great to get a shout. But it'll be interesting to see what he does next.
Okay, last question before I let you go. Of course, when you talk Irish MMA, you have to talk Conor McGregor. He was in attendance, but we didn't hear much from him this past week. No Q&A, no media stuff, which I found to be somewhat interesting. What's the word on the street over there about Conor? Are people still backing him 100%? Is there still the same kind of anticipation buzz for this fight in December as there was if they were going to be fighting in July? What's the temperature like regarding Conor McGregor these days?
Oh, it's still exactly the same as it is. Like I think, you know, you can't help but look at that event, you know, and think, you know, it was nearly like originally it was nearly like a contingency plan with Poirier and Duffy fighting each other in the main event. You know, both of them guys would have to want to align themselves for a rematch with Conor McGregor, and I feel like, you know, that certainly had some kind of say on the selling power of the card. Interestingly, he was going to walk out in Dublin. Like, you know, he's going to have a walkout just to sit down in his chair, which I was looking forward to seeing because that seems incredible. You know what I mean? So that didn't happen in the end, but he was kind of walking around, and there was plenty of fanfare every time he kind of was walking around meeting all the fans. He stayed and signed a lot of stuff. But yeah, like, I mean, that I can see a lot of people traveling to that fight again. I don't know if it's going to be as many as there were in July because it's so close to Christmas.
Yeah.
And over here, people go crazy buying the kids presents and stuff like that. But, you know, I think there's still going to be thousands of people traveling, 100%.
Great stuff as always, my friend. Appreciate the insight. Appreciate your work. Irish Mirror and, of course, Severe MMA and Fightland as well. I forgot to mention Fightland last time. A man of many hats, Pete Carroll. There he is. Thank you for the time.
Thanks very much. Cheers, Ariel. Thanks very much.
All right, there he is. Peter Carroll stopping by. Always great work from him and the lads over at Severe MMA. All right, in a minute, we are going to be joined by Malki Kawa, the manager for Jon Jones. Friday afternoon, UFC finally lifted his suspension. And, of course, I mean, who didn't see that coming? And this all leads to the highly anticipated rematch against Daniel Cormier. This time, Jon Jones, the challenger. This could be a gigantic fight if promoted correctly by the UFC. And you have to wonder if they can get the New York thing done. Will that be the main event for the April 23rd show at Madison Square Garden? That would be the perfect storybook ending as far as this past year is concerned, and also pretty crazy. That would be almost a year to the date of all this happening to Jon. So it would be a nice way for him to end it. And of course, he's wanted to fight in New York for quite some time. We don't have Jon on the line, but we do have the next best thing. We do have his manager, Malki Kawa. He joins us right now via the magic of Skype. There he is, front and center. Malki, how are you, my friend?
What an introduction. We don't have Jon, we have Mal. Thanks, Ariel. I appreciate it. I mean, I'm not on the phone with, you know, any of the other great reporters and stuff.
No,
whatever.
This means I was setting up the Jon stuff, and if someone was tuning in late, they'd say, "Oh, wow, Jon's going to be on it." I said, "We have the next best thing." I mean, I think that's a pretty good title, no?
I'll take it. It's all good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Congratulations, I guess, are in order. He is a free man. He can resume his fighting career. And the reason I wanted to have you, one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on, was on this very show you said, "Hey, you know, it's still not 100% that this guy is going to fight again." What changed?
You know, I think that as time went on and as he really had time to himself, he got to really self-reflect and really figure out what he really wanted. And I think he really wants to fight. I think that was, you know, it came into question. He was under a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot of expectations, a lot of things, you know, and a lot of it, some of it's just stuff he puts on himself. And I think that, you know, he had always told me from before that last fight that he had scheduled that he wanted a break. He wanted a long break. And it just, every fight kept on presenting itself. And every, you know, time that the UFC wanted him to fight, it was just, you know, he just didn't say no. And it just kept on, you know, I guess it mounted up and he just needed some time away. So once he got the time away, and I think he got time to really, you know, figure out what he wanted, it ended up, you know, he figured out at the end of the day that, you know, he wanted to fight.
Was the ball always in his court, though? In other words, they could lift the suspension, but it's up to him to fight. So were you thinking that this is that they're going to lift it once the plea hearing was done, he came to an agreement, and that he was a free man on that end, and then it was up to him to decide whether or not he was going to fight?
Yeah, I mean, I always knew that he was. I've known for a long time that he was gonna. This plea agreement had kind of been in place for a little bit. You know what I mean? We kind of been going back and forth with the DA. We kind of knew certain things was going to happen. And I knew that after that was going to happen, at some point they were going to reinstate him. The one thing I never really knew for sure was whether or not he really wanted to fight. We and him, we talk about a lot of different things, and sometimes it's not just fighting. So when I listened to him, I always wondered, you know what I mean? Does he really want to do this? And I always knew there would be a day where maybe he would say, yeah, I definitely want to do this. You know what I mean? And I'm ready to come back, and I'm going to, but I just didn't know if it would be right when the suspension got lifted, if it would be a year from now, would it be UFC 200? Would it be with Madison Square Garden be enough? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know what would be enough to make him say, hey, I really want to do this. Because he really was questioning it. He really didn't, you know what I mean? It was just a lot. I just think it was just, he just needed the time away. And I think that now that he's had that, he's been able to reflect and see what, really is important to him.
So in a perfect world, when does he come back?
You know what? We're working that out with the UFC right now. I mean, there's for me personally, I think one of the perfect, in a perfect world, New York State gets approved, and he makes a comeback April 23rd in Madison Square Garden. I mean, that's in a perfect world. That means that New York would have to get approved, and that's in my opinion what I would think would be the stars aligning for everyone, the UFC, the state of New York.
Yeah.
For John making a good comeback, winning his belt in front of his home crowd, that'd be pretty cool.
Are you concerned that DC might put the kibosh on that because he said he didn't want to fight John in New York?
Nah, I don't think DC has any choice in that at all, to be honest with you. I think everybody knows who the champion is, and I hate to sound that way, you know what I mean? But the reality of it is, this fight's very important for DC as well, right? If DC is the opponent and whatever day it is, right, you got to think that he needs this fight just as much as anybody. Because, I mean, I see what everyone's saying. I see what everybody's thinking about him. Yes, he beat Gustafsson, he beat Anthony Johnson. You know what I mean? And congratulations to him and phenomenal fighter. But he still didn't beat John Jones. No one took that belt from him. And at the end of the day, him, parading around is like, I'm the true champion, I'm this and that and the other. It doesn't really sit well with me. You know what I mean? This is me talking personally from my perspective. So with that being said, it's to me, I think it's an important fight for DC. So if John wants to fight him in February, March, April, May, June, July, whenever, I think DC should step up and just take the fight.
Was there any talk of John bypassing 205 and returning as a heavyweight?
I threw that out there. I threw that out there. When this whole time this stuff was going on, I was just kind of like running different things by him. You ever think about becoming a heavyweight? You want to go back and just become the heavyweight champ? Do you want to, you know what I mean? And then, he just he entertained every idea. I don't think that there's any real talk of him coming back to the heavyweight right now. The problem is that he weighs right now he's walking around 220, 225. So he would be a really, really small heavyweight. And the fact of the matter is that now that he's training and he's doing all these things that he's, differently than what he's done in the past, how can you tell the man to go up heavyweight unless he gains 20 more pounds? You know what I mean? So this is the issue, is that he's got to get bigger to be able to fight at heavyweight and to not lose any of his explosion. But I mean, I just think it's a matter of time at some point. I just don't know when that would ever happen. But I think it would have been too, how do you say, listen, it was wishful thinking on my part. I would have loved to have seen him come back as a heavyweight and contend for a title, but it's just, I don't think it lines up properly right now.
Okay, so mentally, where is he at right now? Because I see the Instagram videos. He appears to be in amazing shape. He's lifting weights. He seems very focused, but is this something that he has had to try to convince himself, okay, I need to resume my career. I'm still a very young guy. I mean, where's he at as far as returning and getting back the title and doing what he was doing before all of this happened?
One word I guess that can really describe John right now is focused.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen him as focused. He's super focused. I'm talking about Ariel. He's focused more than he's ever been before. Listen, everybody's got their opinion. He did this, he did that, whatever, and that's all fine and dandy. He's still the greatest fighter we've ever seen, right? And I've watched him through many different camps, and the coaches have told me about how he's done certain things in different camps. This is the first time, I think you guys can also attest to, that he doesn't have a fight scheduled. He's in Albuquerque and he's actually training. Most of the time when John done with a fight, he doesn't train at all. There's no weightlifting, there's no jiu-jitsu practice, there's no boxing, there isn't anything. So this is the first time that we can sit here, all of us, and we can say he's actually putting in some work. You know what I mean? And he's really putting in some work. He's doing the best that he can at almost everything he's doing. So he's very focused at just becoming a monster inside that octagon and being a great person outside the octagon and being a good example and all that. So he's very focused at just being a really, really, really good John Bones Jones.
It feels like it happened, years ago at this point, but it was only around 6-7 months that all this happened, right after UFC 186 in Montreal. The proof will always be in the pudding, but from your perspective, honestly, is he figuring things out outside of the gym? Is he back on the right track? What can you tell us about his personal life?
The conversations me and John have today are completely different than the conversations me and John had even 3 months ago, 4 months ago, a year ago, 8 months ago. It's just, you would have to really like be around it to understand it and see it, because you know what I mean? Listen, we can always put out, I could always, listen, I could sit here and tell you what you guys want to hear. You know what I mean? And I can sit here and tell you guys that, he's the greatest thing and he's so wonderful and this, like, and then, I'm his manager. I'm supposed to say a lot of that stuff, but, there's certain things that I can, when I see it myself with my own eyes, I can tell you that there's a lot of things that he's just doing different. Everything. There's not one thing I can put my finger on. It's everything, from the way he's waking up in the morning and going to train, from, showing up on time to everything that he has scheduled, even if it's something as ridiculous as getting his phone fixed. You know what I mean? It's just, we have a conference call at 2:00, John. John's at 1:45 calling me. Hey, Ma, you ready for the conference call? You know what I mean? Wow. What are we going to talk about? Let's do it. So there's a lot of things that I see that he's just very focused. Right now, he's like just going to make sure he's the best at everything he does.
He lost a lot of sponsors when this happened. This is your domain. What's going on there? Are people coming back?
You know what? Put it to you like this, yes and no. Yes and no.
Okay.
I can tell you like that, yes and no. I don't want to tell you that the whole world's sitting here calling me, I can't wait to sponsor John Jones, because that's not the case. But at the same time, you know what I mean? Everybody's kind of in that like that hold and wait pattern kind of thing. Like, you know what? Hey, we want to see what's up, what the plans are, this, that, and the other. And listen, I'll just put it to you like this. I'm a lot further along than I expected. I'll put it to you like that. There's a lot of good news coming and a lot of stuff that's going to happen in the next couple of months that I think that as they get done, you guys will say, okay, well, hell, it's just all good stuff.
Some companies, them, jump ship, I guess understandably so, when all this happened. Are you interested in repairing those relationships, or are you the kind of guy, and is John the kind of guy who's like, look, you jump ship then, I don't want to rekindle that fire?
Well, no, I think that's not the right way to take it. I think at the end of the day, we understand why a lot of them had to jump ship. I don't think that you can blame any one company for doing what they did. A majority of the companies' relationships are actually pretty good. They love John. John loves them. I think that from just what their budgeting is set up at right now. We're at the end of the year, so a lot of stuff is going to happen probably for next year. Some companies, we've just moved on ourselves. Like, there's certain things that I'm working on, have been working on for a while now, that as time goes on, we'll bring to the table, and John will decide whether or not he wants to work with them. But I've got great relationships with every one of his companies that he's ever worked with. They all have expressed some sort of interest as far as working with John again. Some have said, hey, we won't be able to do anything for a while. Some have said, hey, if we do it again, it's got to be a little different. And so we just have a lot of things right now, Ariel, on the table that I got to sift through to see what's the best route for him to go by. So, the beautiful thing about all this is that this has given us a great chance to have a second chance, in a sense, in a new slate. And that's kind of like the way I've also taken this side that you've called my domain as that opportunity as well, to do everything kind of, the way maybe I'd have liked to have done it the last time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Two last things on John. How would you describe his relationship with the UFC, and in particular Dana and Lorenzo these days?
First off, I just got to say that I was very appreciative of Dana Lorenzo and Lawrence Epstein coming out to his hearing, this last hearing he had, because they don't listen. I'm gonna put it like this: we all know that their relationship has been very rocky, and I'm not gonna deny that. But again, like I said, our thing now is that we're on the second chapter of his career, right? This is the midpoint, and this is a new opportunity, a new start in a way. We want to kind of do everything in a way that a little easier, a little smarter. I think the relationship with them is getting better. It was very nice of them to show up, because no CEO or no commissioner of any league shows up to any of their star clients' trials or issues with the law. And then the fact that they showed up in support of John and that was a real big thing on their side. And I think that goes to show a lot about who they are and then what they're trying to do and accomplish in the sport and with their guys and stuff. And it really meant a lot to us. So it's a work in progress, I would say. You know what I mean? I think everything's on the up and up and getting to where it needs to get to, and hopefully all the little things that are out there, that whole VTOR testing thing and things of that nature kind of throw some wrenches and some stuff. But, we've got to sit down and talk with them some more and just continue to build the relationship and see where it goes.
What do you mean about the Vitor thing? You mean like he's upset about that? What do you?
Yeah, I mean, we were very upset about that. Obviously, you got to think that if what they're saying, what the media is reporting, if that's actually factual, that there was a cover up of some sort of drug test, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem for us on a personal level. It's a huge problem for us on a professional level. But again, we haven't spoken to anybody about that. We don't really know, the all the details. No one's, said anything to anybody. That's a conversation that we'll have at some point. But the reality of it is that, those are the type of things that, obviously, if you're any fighter, if you were to fear that, this and that went on with your promotion, you'd be a little bothered by it, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, of course. Actually, I don't know if you know this. I wanted to have, Vitor was supposed to be on the show today, and they pulled out. And
his people wouldn't allow you guys to ask him certain questions. I'm going to assume that
it
had to do with that.
It was 100% that.
Sure.
So that's disappointing. Not that I was gonna, hammer him for it, but just he hasn't addressed it. What are you trying to say?
No, I mean, listen. I mean, look. I just, this is my thing. It's like, people always ask me that question. What's his relationship like with the UFC? What's John's relationship like with the UFC? John has a good relationship with everybody. He's a good person, man. He doesn't try to have bad relationships with anyone. You know what I mean? But if you're gonna purposely go out of your way to do harm to him and stuff like that, then there's no business for him to have, relationships like that. So, again, that's something that happened in the past. Like I said, you know what I mean? We look at this, new beginning as a second chapter, you know what I mean? And as an opportunity to go and do things, better than we did them in the past, and just to be, positive and to move forward in that positive direction. So, you know what I mean? All I can tell you is that I think it's just something that we're working on and we're building towards, having a really good relationship with everyone going forward.
There might be one exception to that rule, and his name is Daniel Cormier. I'm wondering how big of a factor he plays in all of this. In other words, if he wasn't the champion, if he didn't say what he's been saying, does that make John think twice about coming back? Like, is a big motivation for him to shut this guy up and take away his belt?
Ariel, what's funny about this is that John is a like, you ever, like in the NFL, you ever notice how some people say that they're allowing the defense to dictate to them what they do? So if they stack the guys in the box, then they'll throw. But if they drop people back, then they'll run the ball. John's the type of offensive coordinator, if I can say that, where it doesn't matter what anybody else says. John does what John's going to do. So that means basically if John wants to fight, John's going to fight. If Daniel Cormier talks up a big storm, then it may motivate John to want to beat up Daniel Cormier more. If Daniel Cormier doesn't talk at all, if John wants to beat up Daniel Cormier, then John's going to beat up Daniel Cormier. So for me, it's not like him talking or not talking, I don't think pushes him back into it faster, because if he didn't want to do it, remember, you see, here's the thing people forget. He's already beaten Daniel Cormier, and it wasn't close. So him talking, what does that really, at the end of the day, matter? You follow what I'm trying to say? Like, there's no real, like, I mean, how do I say it to you? Like, in other words, he beat him up, and he beat him up easy. It wasn't even close, right? This was the guy who was going to take John down 100 out of 100 times, and he'll do whatever he wanted and all this other stuff. And John kind of had his way. He took him down. He did what he wanted. I mean, it wasn't a close fight at all. With that being said, if John wants to fight someone else, then John's going to push to fight someone else. If John wants to fight Cormier because he wants his belt back, and that's what's, in John's head, then that's what John's going to do. So it has no dictation at all because of Daniel Cormier. Let's just pretend Gustafsson would have won the belt, right? If John wants his belt back, then John's going to fight Gustafsson no matter what Cormier would have said, or what Anthony Johnson would say, or Brian Bader would say, or whoever would say. He's that type of guy. There's nobody's going to dictate to him anything. He's going to be the guy that dictates whatever it is that he wants. That's just the way he operates.
It's been a while since we had a manager on this show and talked about this, so I feel like you can discuss it a little bit, and I'm curious to get your take. How has A, the Reebok deal, and B, the USADA deal affected your line of work?
The USADA deal hasn't affected my line of work at all yet. I don't, outside of us having to update where the fighters are and putting that extra responsibility on us, that really hasn't affected us. I think that, it's a good thing for the sport. It's going to keep a lot of guys honest and clean. And I think that that's important. You know what I mean? So that's that part. The Reebok deal, it's a little different because, like I told you, Ariel, from the first time that we did the Nike deal with John, that eventually at some point, this sport was going to turn to that. I said that, I think, 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, when John first got the Reebok deal. I told you guys, this sport is going to go to that eventually. They had talked about it. It was in the works. They had always wanted to find someone to come in and just do away with all the other sponsors. If you come from the football world, the basketball world, or the baseball world, the hockey world, in those major sports in our country, all right, you are under the same guidelines. You have a uniform, and you have to do all your stuff outside the playing field of the arena. It's the same exact thing in MMA. Are my guys getting hit on the sponsor side? Absolutely, because the one thing that MMA brought was an opportunity to let a lot of the smaller mom and pop shops jump in, who don't have a marketing budget to put them in commercials and in magazines and things of that nature, to put their logo on their shorts and pay the guys to do that. So a guy could get 5 sponsors at $3 or $4 grand a piece, and he'd make 15 to 25,000, 30,000 bucks. It'd be great to go. Now, depending on the amount of fights he has, depends on whether or not he gets a certain check. Well, when you really sit down and look at it all, some guys are suffering from it, and other guys who just got here or been here for 2 or 3 fights are doing better than they've ever done before. So it just really all depends. You look at guys like Bones, who I think will do very well, as time goes on. Guys like Anthony Pettis, things that, even Tyron Woodley, who does very well outside of it. Even Carlos Condit, who I'm starting to see a lot more, movement on him when it comes to sponsors and things of that nature. They're going to do okay outside the octagon. It's just more of your middle level guys who people don't really know about are the ones that, get hurt more because you can't sell the UFC aspect of it. So other than that, it's just getting creative and doing, sponsors. But this is like how it is in football. Right. You can represent a first round, and they won't have any sponsorship outside the football field either. You got to be certain positions, certain picks, certain guys, certain market. The stars have to align. It's not the same. So I was ready for it.
Speaking of Woodley, what's going to happen to him? Is he going to wait for this title shot? That means he's not going to be, he would be out of action for like a year, more than a year, by the time that fight actually happens. So what do you think? What do you think is going to happen to him?
Well, my conversations with Woodley have been realistically, depending on what happens in January, but I don't think that he's going to want to sit out the whole time. I'm going to actually, it was on my list of stuff to do today, to sit down with Woodley and kind of figure out, what he wanted to do going forward, because, does he deserve the next title shot? I think absolutely, the answer is absolutely yes. Does he have to fight somebody else? I don't think so. I don't think that's necessary. So we're caught between 2 things here. Do we wait him out and him fight? Does ring rust come into consideration there? If it's Robbie, if it's Carlos, one of the two, I think that there's a lot of answers that I got to find out. But that's something that I think that we'll know in the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to talk with him today, actually, specifically about that, to see what he wants to do. Do we push for a fight on that same card? Or somewhere around that same card, so that he can, be in line with whoever wins that fight, so he can fight? Or do we just sit and wait? And that's something I got to get him to answer today at some point.
Arlovsky just got a fight last week. What about Frank Mir? What's next for him?
Well, I think there's a heavyweight out there that needs a fight, don't you think? I think he just was all the way across the country and needed a fight. So we're waiting on him whether or not to see if he's looking to fight or not. So the
pride of Ireland, Ben Rothwell.
Oh yeah, Well, listen. Here's the thing. When I called up Joe and I told him, hey, if Ben's looking to fight, he needs a fight. Frank would be more than happy to make it happen. So I guess we're waiting to see if that's the route the UFC and Ben want to go.
Man, you've been on fire as of late. How many new clients have you signed? Arlovsky recently, Yoel Romero, the Pettis brothers. Who am I missing?
Who are we missing? Hey, listen, we went to Cuba and got like some of Cuban's best prospects that just got here to America. We signed them too.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
Oh, yeah. National champion wrestlers and stuff like that. It's pretty cool.
Just do me a favor. Don't have Bean do the translations for those guys, all right?
Bean's a good guy, but I don't know why you have to try to kill the guy. He didn't do a bad job. Listen, it wasn't that bad. It's just that, what do you call it? I understand he could have probably put a little bit more spice on some of the stuff, but... Don't forget. You know how much I had to repeat that word to him. That's why when he said to him, I said, "Don't forget." And he's starting to say it with the T, because when I met him, I started talking to him. But I said, "Listen to me, buddy. I know what you meant because I live in Miami. But the minute you said that, this is what it sounded like." And he was like, "No. It's no forget. No forget." I said, "No. Exclamate the T. Yeah. Exclamate the T." He's a good dude too. Let me tell you, that's another guy that's super focused. He's like at 191, 192 right now. Okay. He's like training around that weight. He's keeping his weight really light, and he's looking to really make a real serious statement against Jacare and contend for this belt. Because whoever wins that fight, is getting the championship next. So,
am I crazy, or have they not announced Pettis Alvarez yet, or did they announce it and I just missed it?
They announced it, right? I think they announced
it. They did? Because it was kind of out there for a long time, and so he's fighting January 17th. Did they tell you if he wins that, he's going to get a title shot? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, he wins that, gets a title shot.
Okay. Wow. And he told me, are you on board with this? He told me that even if Dos Anjos loses to Cerrone, he wants Dos Anjos regardless.
I'm not on board with that. Why would I be on board with that?
He says he wants to right that wrong. He wants to exercise
you know what?
those.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you this. You know, honestly, I love it when a fighter wants to fight and do stuff like that because that makes my job a lot easier. You know what I mean? To just set that stuff up. But I my job also entails explaining to these guys why it's probably better to go get the belt because obviously you're gonna make more money.
Sure.
When you make more money, then you can also go back to the UFC and say, hey, I understand that, but I'd really like to fight this guy, and then you can make it for make it worth even more than just skipping a championship opportunity if you have. I mean, listen, if Cowboy wins, right, and he holds the belt and he just beat Cowboy, a year ago or so?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're telling me that you'd rather not? No, I just think that's Anthony's competitor because Anthony's a huge competitor, man. I don't think people really know how much of a competitor Anthony is, and he's working real hard to also fix a lot of his training habits and just his some of the things you guys saw in the last fight just won't happen in this one and this next one. He's just really working very, very hard. So it's a pretty cool thing watching him and see what he's going to do.
Congratulations on the John situation getting resolved, and he's back. Can't wait for that. What a huge story that is going to be whenever his fight gets booked. And by the way, I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, but I've been noticing your brother Abraham at the events more and more. Let's keep that going. I think he's a sight for sore eyes compared to you. So it's been a nice change. So let's keep Abraham at the events. You in the background, you show up on the show when need be, and we could keep it going that way. What do you think?
He's a sight for sore eyes. What does that mean?
That means that means it's nice to look at him. It's nice to see him.
Listen, hey, whatever floats your boat. Either which way, you're gonna do with one of us, so it doesn't matter to me.
All right.
You know what I mean? Hey, listen, you know what it is. Listen, you know how these rookies are. They get in, they want to go to all the fights,
sure.
They want to be there and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it's all good. Let them go. The hell.
It's a
but you know what? Listen, actually, I got a very busy schedule. You got to think December 10th, 12th, 19th in Orlando, January 2nd, 17th. And then, you know what I mean? Shoot, you're talking about every other weekend after that, pretty much with all these other guys that are a thing. We got Korea still coming up. I mean, listen, you mentioned Ben Henderson, who's fighting, playing Thiago Alves in the main event there in South Korea, which should be a huge show and a pretty cool show. They're sold out, but I think they're almost sold out or sold out already. Something to that effect. The tickets are selling really well there. So it's there's a lot of big shows coming, man. So
we'll have you on to talk about that one. That's two of your clients going toe to toe in the main event. So much to discuss as always. We have run out of time. I appreciate it as always. Mr. Malki Kawa, thank you very much. And again, congrats on John.
Thank you very much, everyone.
All right, there he is, Malki Kawa, manager to the Stars. Always great to get his insight on the show. All right, let's move along now. Let's go to our next guest. He has been patient. We appreciate it. Always a pleasure to talk to Alexander Gustafsson. He joins us right now from Sweden. Alex, how are you? Alex, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, thank you
Can
for
you
the.
hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Thank you very much for the time.
Great.
I appreciate it. So we're 3 or so, maybe a little more than 3 weeks removed from the fight. When we talk about UFC 192 and Daniel Cormier, what are your feelings towards it?
I'm feeling good. I've been healing up quite good, and so it was a good fight, and we both just went in and went all in. So there's not much more to say about it.
Is a fight like that easier to digest than what happened in January against Rumble? Because you were so close. It was such a great fight. You've received so much respect and accolades after this Cormier fight. Is it easier, or are they both the same?
Well, it's a tough question. A loss is always a loss, and it's always hard to deal with. But I'd probably say that this one is easier than the January one against Anthony. That was a tough one. But I think it was more because it was in Stockholm and stuff like that. But it's a loss, and it's always tough, man. Any
serious injuries after the Cormier fight?
No, not at all. No, I think it looked worse than I actually was. I was just cut everywhere, and I don't know. It's never actually happened to me in a fight. I had a cut over the eye and in the nose, but somehow I got a cut in my mouth, and that was the worst one, I think.
Wow.
But it's just scratches. It's just flesh. And it heals up quite good. So no no serious injury, no internal injury, nothing like that. So I'm fine, and I'm actually back in training. I trained today, and I did some drills with my friends, and then I did some heavy bag work. So I'm feeling fine.
Before they read the judges' scorecard, did you think you had done enough to win that fight?
Well, again, I didn't know when I was standing there. Like, for example, the same with John. I've been talking about that too earlier. It's just one of those fights when you don't know what they're gonna say. You don't know. It's just a close fight, and I just felt it was very close. So I had no idea.
In the very early portion of the fight, he slammed you, which looked like this highlight reel move. What did that do for your confidence right there to get up off the ground like that? I'm assuming that's never happened to you in an MMA fight before. What were you thinking at that point?
No, I was surprised from of his power. He has just some brutal strength, and I'm kind of strong person and kind of heavy. So I didn't really see that slam coming, but he didn't hurt me at all. Just mentally, I was still there, and I just felt fine. I knew he was. That's actually one of his moves, so I wasn't that surprised. But it was just his strength that surprised me a little bit. And I saw, I just saw the roof, and then I saw the mat. So it was kind of good move he did.
Have you watched the fight since it happened?
I haven't. No.
You haven't. Is that typical for you?
No. Yeah, I think so. It's just when you take that step to watch the fight, you actually lost. It's really you need to have to take some courage, and I just need to find that and sit down with my team and watch it and see what the hell I do wrong all the time. When it comes to like the fifth round and stuff like that, it's just I don't know. It's just like I'm getting that. I'm just number two, and I need to find out what's the problem are and how to win the fifth round, and win the fight. So I'm just going to sit down with the team and see what we can do about it and what we can learn about it from it.
Do you think it's a cardio issue?
No, I don't think so. I just working my ass off every camp, and I'm feeling fine. And I don't know. I just of course you're tired of the fifth round, but 5 rounds. But it's not like I'm still kind of fresh after the fight, and it's just that I don't think I'm working enough. When you're fighting a guy like DC, he's just coming in and just pushes you. You have to push him back a little bit, and I think it's just the technical part and just put my things together in the fight.
So
it feels like I'm getting.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think just one-dimensional. I just do one thing. I need to work more on how to be not that a bit more unpredictable.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that's something that happens as the fight goes on, or do you feel like you're like that throughout the entire fight?
No, it just as the fight goes on, and it just feels like I'm getting back to basics and I just go back to what I always been doing. But as you're competing, you're just getting tougher and tougher opponents, and you have to develop yourself. And I'm developing in practice and in sparring and even in fights. But as the fights goes, I just go more and more back to what I did back in the days. And I need to be a little bit more unpredictable. Maybe I don't know. It's a really hard thing to fix, but I'm gonna fix it.
I'm sure you remember the third round. It looked like you had him in a lot of trouble, and he was rocked. It's very rare to see DC like that. Do you think if you have an extra minute or so, you were able to finish him?
I don't know, to be honest with you. That guy is just a tank. It did. I hit him with the. I've been dropping guys for a lot of years with those punches I throw. I hit him with, but he just came at me, and I don't think even if I had like a baseball bat and hit him with that, he was still coming after me. So he's a really tough guy, and he can take a beating and stuff like that. So it was a tough fight.
Was he tougher than you expected him to be?
No, I don't know. I knew it would be tough, but he just took everything I threw at him, and he just came at me. So I don't know. Maybe he surprised me a little bit in that fight. But yeah, he's a tough guy. He's a really tough guy.
I got to say, the end of the fight reminded me why I love this sport, and in particular the fighters, so much. It was just so nice to see you guys embrace and to hear what both of you were saying about each other, the respect that he was giving you and you were giving him. Of course, he had more time to talk at the press conference and everything, but it was just a beautiful thing that you don't always see in other sports. And I was wondering if that's something that you had developed over the fight. Did you feel the same way as him? Like after the 25 minutes were over, is that just a bond that we don't understand because we've never been in there before? Do you now have you shared something with Daniel that for us regular people, it's out of our comprehension?
As you say it, I think that's, it's correct. That's how it is. You go in there and you just put everything you have in that octagon, and after that, you just share something with that guy you fought, and it's very hard for me also to put words on it, but it's a special feeling, and you just have that much respect for the other guy, and I think it's one of those things that you have to be in that situation to understand the feeling you get from that. So absolutely.
Do you still love fighting as much as you did, say, before the John Jones fight?
I do. It's it's who I am. It's my identity. So it's I don't know what to do if I didn't fight. So I believe I do. It's just that you just need to keep growing as a fighter and as a person, and see what you're doing wrong and see what you're doing right. And I'm the type of person that always have been taking the long road, the tough road. So I just learn always new things, like from actually my mistakes. So it's just going to keep going, and I just have to keep fighting. So, but I love the sport, and I just and the team and everything. The whole thing is just it's just my life,
So you're not thinking about retirement anymore, right?
No, I don't. I actually, I don't. I'm actually motivated, and it just feels great to be back in training and doing what I love to do. And now I'm not allowed to fight for 6 months, so I've got some time to see to look at my training and my system and see what we can do better and develop everything.
What's a perfect scenario for you upon returning? Any specific place, opponent? Have you thought about that yet?
No, not at all. No. I'm just doing fun training right now, and that's all I'm doing. I don't think that much about the next opponent and the next competition. I'll probably will in very soon, but right now I'm just happy doing that kind of training you want to do, and not like forced to do.
Right. They say this is when you get better, right? When you don't have a fight, when you're just in between camps and you can just focus on yourself as opposed to an opponent, right?
Exactly. So that's what I'm going to put all my time and energy in.
I've also noticed this, and I wanted to ask you about it. After the Rumble fight, people, and I'll admit it myself, questioning, why are you getting a title shot after a loss? And then you have this fight, and it's so close, but yet the respect that you've developed and earned from the people, once again, it was the same thing as after the Jones fight. Did you notice that? Like, still, at the end of the day, there are 2 losses, but the way people view you now is a lot different than the way they viewed you in January?
Well, yeah, I got to say that I've seen I got the support, and I've been hearing from fans and read it from fans, and even if it's always great to deliver, to all the fans around the world, and get that support. It's really important after you come out of a loss. So it's been helping me a lot, and it motivates me a lot, when it comes to future competitions and so on. So.
Did you talk to Dana and or Lorenzo after the fight? Did they say anything to you?
Yeah. They called me, and they just check out how I felt, and they gave me really, really good feedback, and so I got tons of support, and I really appreciate that, and it helps me to keep going.
You said that they told you they have big plans. What are these big plans that they have for you? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
You didn't ask?
That's all. That was no. I'm just in that moment when I talked to them, I wasn't that curious. I was just.
Right.
It was just after the fight and stuff like so. So I just, I'm really now I'm curious.
Maybe we should call them up on the phone right now. Do you want to call them right now on the air?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. We can take it another day.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm curious about it, and I'm probably going to talk to them in the future, and I'm going to see what's going on, and the next step.
Okay, two last quick things. Are you happy to hear that Jon Jones is back, and are you still hopeful that you'll get another shot against him?
Yeah, I'm really happy, and I'm glad for him, and I can't wait to see him compete again, and let's see what the future brings. Maybe we'll have a second fight. Who knows?
Yeah, that would be something. And your teammate, Reza Madadi, came back on Saturday. Long layoff for him, and, of course, he didn't pick up the win. What were your impressions of his performance? Do you think the layoff affected him? What did you think?
Well, he's been away for a while, and I think even if he lost that fight, he went in there, and he's been having some tough times, and he's back, and he just, as always, he put a good show for the fans, and I'm sure after this loss he's gonna develop a lot too, and get much better, and now he had his first fight after the long layoff, so he's gonna be back, and he's gonna be better than ever, and he trains harder than anyone I know in the gym, so he's just gonna come back and get that win, so.
Alex, thank you very much for the time. You're a class act, my friend, and again, congratulations on an amazing performance. One of the best fights of the year. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Always a pleasure to watch you fight, and looking forward to your return, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you. Take care.
There he is, Alexander Gustafsson, the Mauler, stopping by. It's amazing. 2 losses in a row, but it's a much different Alexander Gustafsson in the eyes of the fans and the media than back in January, when sometimes we've talked about this before. A loss doesn't do all that much to your reputation, to the way people view you, to your stock, so to speak. And that was the case after UFC 192. What a great performance. I called it an instant classic. Right below, in my opinion, Lawler versus McDonald. And in some way, I mean, you can make that argument for Fight of the Year. There's no doubt about it. I think in the end, as of right this second, that's probably the fight that you should bet on to win that award. But this one very close and a lot of fun to watch. And once again, so close. But there's no shame in being number 2 to the likes of Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier and pushing those guys to the brink, which is what he did on both occasions. A great ambassador for the sport in Europe and, of course, in his home country of Sweden. And we appreciate him coming on, and his manager, Thomas, for hooking us up as well. Okay, in a minute, we're going to be joined by Dustin Poirier. Interesting week for him. I was going through that at the beginning of the show, but I sort of lost my train of thought. Of course, he was supposed to fight Joseph Duffy Saturday in Ireland. News breaks Wednesday afternoon that the fight is off. Joseph Duffy suffered a concussion Saturday night at TriStar. Kudos to the UFC. They were the regulating body. They were the commission. He had some tests, went to see some doctors. They determined that, yes, he did suffer what they called a mild concussion, and they pulled him from the fight. And that's got to be a tough thing to do. It's one thing for an athletic commission to do that. It's one thing for NAC or California or New Jersey to do that. It's another thing when the UFC is calling the shots, and there's no athletic commission in Ireland, so they had to do it themselves. And of course, they were going to get a lot of heat for it. And yes, the tickets were sold already at that point, so there are fans who are gonna ask for refunds. But that's a tough thing, and that should tell you something about some of the people like Mark Ratner who head up the regulation side of things when they are the regulating body. So unfortunately for all those fans that were hoping to see Duffy versus Poirier Saturday in Ireland, they did not get that opportunity. But hopefully we will get that fight in the near future, because what a fight it is on paper. Now we're talking to Dustin Poirier. He is joining us via the magic of Skype. Dustin, how are you, my friend?
Good, man. What's going on?
Not much, and thank you for being flexible with the timing. I appreciate that greatly. You're in the car right now, so I'm assuming you're back home. You come home from Ireland. You left to go to Ireland expecting to have a fight, to have a great performance in the main event. You come home looking the same, no fight. How empty of a feeling is that for you?
It's upsetting for sure. I flew all the way out there to fight Joseph Duffy. But, I'm staying positive, man. I just left the gym. This is what I'm saying. A lot of people are saying you did 10 or 12 weeks of training and you let it, go away or what, this and that, whatever. But, that training wasn't done in vain, man. I got better and my game evolved and, on to what's next.
Your reaction when they called you to tell you the fight was off, did you think that you were being pranked? Did you think that this was a bad joke? How did you react to it?
It was Wednesday night, pretty late, like 10 o'clock or so. I was starting my weight cut, and I got a call to my hotel room, and it was one of the guys from UFC Europe, and he said, "Hey, Joe Silva's on my cell phone. He wants to talk to you." So immediately I was like, this is kind of weird. This doesn't usually happen. I was thinking maybe Duffy was having problems with his weight or something like that. I had no clue. But when I talked to Joe Silva on the phone, first thing he said was, "Hey, man, the fight is off,"
And of course, the whole thing happened where they offered you some people and you said no. Was it right away that you said no, or did you talk to your team? How did you go about that?
Yeah, they only offered me one person, and it was Norman Park. And Joe needed an answer right there on the spot, but he gave me a couple minutes to think about it, and he wanted me to call him right back. My team was there. I called my head coach back in Florida. And they said, "Hey, reschedule the fight that we trained for."
Yeah.
It was a pretty easy decision for them, but me as a fighter, it was kind of tough for me, I even didn't even get the chance to talk to Joe and really turn it down myself or anything. Mike Brown actually did it over the phone, and while he was doing it, we were still kind of I myself was still kind of on the fence. But I got to trust my team, and the fight that I was there to fight didn't happen. So.
I know you were in attendance on Saturday. After seeing Norman's performance, were you thinking like, man, I should have just taken this fight, or are you 100% at ease with the decision?
No, I'm at ease with the decision. Before seeing him fight, I knew he was a boring fighter that I could have beat. That wasn't the thing. It was just the whole principle of the guy I was going to fight and the hype he had behind him and being in his hometown. And I trained 12 weeks for that guy.
Yeah.
Norman's not a tough fight. Matter of fact, right now, before you call me, he's on Twitter saying all kinds of stuff. And, dude, he should be happy he fought that guy he fought.
Why? Why do you feel that way?
Because he's been getting his walking papers this week.
Okay. You would have smoked.
I saved his career. He should thank me.
It's always a funny thing when a guy's in, a location, agreed to fight in a cage, and now people are questioning you, like, "Oh, are you scared to fight?" How does that make you want to just pull the very little hair that you have on your head? It's such a funny thing.
Yeah, this is the thing. Every time I've ever gotten in the cage, left it all in there, man. I'm willing to fight to the death every time I step in there. So for people to question my warrior spirit or I'm not a real fighter or this and that, it's just ridiculous, you know. But hey, I'm growing up in my career. I'm surrounded by the right people. Everybody's saying, you know, that was a smart decision. You know, if I would think like fans think, I'd be broken, brain dead, and fighting everybody every weekend. You know, hey, I'm a prize fighter, and the prize wasn't right. So we came back home, and we'll see what happens next. It's that simple. I was there to hold up my end of the bargain.
Right.
Norman Park was there trying to save his career.
You know, the fan reaction isn't all that surprising, but the part that bothers me, and I want to get your reaction to it, is when I see fellow fighters, fellow UFC fighters call you out saying, I would have taken this fight. I saw several do that. And that just reminds me that, you know, at the end of the day, these fighters, you know, no one looks at you guys are supposed to be this brotherhood. You're supposed to be this fraternity. I mean, if to see an unranked fighter who, you know, has never fought on a main card call you out, who's fighting in a main event, who's been around the block, who's fought in massive fights, and say, I would have taken that fight. Of course you would have taken that fight. You're 1-1 in the UFC or something. Does that not piss you off? Because it really pissed me off seeing that.
Yeah, it does piss me off. But, you know, they see an opportunity to get their name on a you know, headline or something. They're just trying to jump on an opportunity. And I understand that, you know, But it's kind of ridiculous from my end.
I saw some pictures of you and Joe together in the lobby and whatnot. What did you say to each other when you saw him after this happened?
You know, he was a gentleman the whole time, Ariel. He told me he apologized. Even Rory McDonald came up to me in the hallway once and said he's sorry about all this happened. You know, hopefully we can get it rescheduled, this and that. But, you know, that's the fight that I wanted and the fight that I prepared for. But after the fights, I ran into Joe's manager on the elevator, and he was telling me, you know, it seems like Joe might not be able to start training again for 30 or 45 days because of head trauma. And that being said, he's looking at like maybe February return. And this is coming from his manager. So we haven't followed up and found out the whole thing. This is just the last thing I've heard. And I don't want to wait till February. I need a fight.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
if that's the case, when would you like to return, and have you thought about anyone else yet?
You know, whoever they want me to fight. I haven't really thought about anyone else. But, you know, I kind of would like a big fight.
Yeah.
For sure. But we'll just see how it plays out, man. Hopefully Duffy gets cleared and we can do this soon. You know, maybe January 2nd. But we'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens.
Considering your history,
Go ahead. Norman Park needs to stay off of Twitter before he gets himself in a fight he can't win. So,
is this something that you would consider at this point, considering all that's been said?
What's that?
Like, let's say they come to you and say, "All right, we want you to fight Norman Park full training camp." Do you even consider that now?
You know, I'd have to talk to my coaches, but the fighter in me, because he's talking and saying all this stuff now, makes me want to whip his ass. Yeah.
Considering your relationship with Conor in the past, your history there, how did the Irish fans treat you over there?
Man, I had a great reception there. Everybody was really cool. Just walking around the city, people were running up to me, you know, far away from the venue, on the trains and stuff out there. People were coming up to me. It was good, man. The fans really showed me a lot of love, I got to say.
That's good. And what about being there in attendance on Saturday? How difficult was that for you?
That was one of the craziest crowds that I've ever been in front of. You know, I've read stuff about them saying what happened last time they were in Dublin and how crazy the crowd was. But whenever Ash Daly came out to fight and the Cranberries were playing, I had chills on my arms the way the crowd was standing up singing every word. Man, that was something special. I've never been in a building that felt like that.
Did it kind of make you feel?
And
go ahead.
And that being said, I was there when GSP fought Jake Shields, and there was like, you know, that I don't forget how many people were there, 40 or 50,000 people in that. It was crazier than that for me.
Wow. Yeah, that was 55,000 Canadians. So you're saying 10,000 Irishmen louder than 55,000 Canadians?
Yeah, everybody was in sync and on point, and you could just feel the energy. It was a different atmosphere I've never been in front of.
Did it make you feel worse? Like you're like, man, I wish I could be fighting in front of these people right now?
While I was watching fights a couple of times, I was like, man, I could be feeling this energy and fighting in front of these people, but you know, I stand by my decision.
Yeah. And how do you feel about him sparring 7 days before the fight? Does that sound normal to you, or do you think that's too soon?
my last sparring session was the Tuesday before.
Okay.
Not the fight week, the previous week.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody does it differently. I flowed the same day he got hurt, Saturday. I was in the gym flowing with guys, but maybe it was an accident. I doubt he was in there full sparring, throwing, hard punches and kicks. They were probably just moving around, and, one wrong move a certain way, and you can get cracked. So maybe it was his training partner's fault, or I'm not sure who did it or whatever, but I heard it was a kick. A shin or a knee to the head when you're moving down, even if it's not hard, can be serious.
Were you surprised that he was removed from the fight because the UFC, were the athletic commission on this card?
What I heard is when they first told me is that originally Saturday when it happened, he did some tests and got approved there in Canada, and the doctor said he was clear. But when he showed up to Ireland, they wanted further testing, and he didn't pass those tests. So I don't know what's going on really with the whole thing. I just felt like I would have been. If it's not the UFC's fault, but I wish they would have called me the week before the fight and said, "Hey, we still want you to come out here. We're planning on you fighting Joseph Duffy, but be prepared to take an alternate fight." That way, it wouldn't have been such a shocker to me the day before the fight.
Yeah.
I would have been like knowing that in the back of my head.
I know Dana was there. Did you have a chance to talk to him?
I talked to him on the phone the day before he got there, and he told me, he said, "Hey, kid, we're going to try to reschedule this fight. If you really think you want to fight, you really think you have to fight, we have a fight for you. If not, don't feel like the show's riding on your shoulders." That was his exact words. So, and then I saw him fight night, and he said, "Hey, man, sit back, relax, and enjoy these fights." That was pretty much it.
Did you feel like that was something that, it was a nice thing for him to say? In other words, if he would have said to you, "I really need you to stay on this card," would you have just done it even though it didn't make sense?
If Dana and Joe were telling me, "Hey, we really need you here on this card, do us a solid and stay on the card," I probably would have done it. But that wasn't the vibe I was getting. It was, "We'll reschedule this thing. Shit happens." That's the vibe I was kind of getting.
I noticed you said on Twitter that they told you if you took the Park fight, you would have been the co-main event. Why is that? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, I have no clue, but that's what I was told.
Huh?
It would have been 3 rounds, and I would have been co-main.
Did that factor in your decision at all?
I don't know. I'm not sure. We were back and forth with the decision. We were on the fence. Me, Mike Brown, and my boxing coach. Then we called my main coach, Cambis Barzini, back in Florida, who was running Robbie Lawler's camp right now, and he said, "Pack your bags and come home." And I said, "Okay." I take his word for gold, man.
Yeah. Did you consider coming home and not sticking around?
No. I knew I was going to stay. My wife was in the air at the time on the way to Ireland, and it was just, I was already out there. I might as well stay there.
Right. Wow. So your wife landed and found out the news?
She was actually at the airport before.
Gosh.
And I Skyped her. And she was pretty supportive. She said, "Hey, do whatever you and your coaches think's right." And at first she said, "I don't like it." I said, "They offered me a replacement." She's like, "I don't like it." Then she said, "Do what you think's right." And I saw her the next morning.
And would you say that this was the toughest decision of your career?
I feel like I did the right thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
And by the way, in case I wasn't clear, you didn't hear me prior, I think you did 100%. You made the right choice. 100%. I mean, it's not even a question. And I give you a lot of credit. But tough because you know that all these people are going to come out and question you and question your warrior spirit and all this nonsense. I'm happy that people like you are making these decisions now because it shows that this is a real sport and not rock'em sock'em robots. So I think but I just wanted to know if you were torn because you're there, you invested all this time, if it was tough in that sense.
Right. Yeah, it was. I was not too far off from weight. I did a whole camp. I was there, going through all the motions. I did a few workouts already the days leading up. I was in the zone and I was in the groove, ready to fight. Going through the fight process, a fight week, and it was kind of tough. But sitting back, like when stuff like this happens to guys, and I see it, I'm just thinking like, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. But I didn't think it was going to happen to me. Not that close to a fight. Like when Woodley's fight got pulled off, and I know it happened to Nick Lentz a few times. and I see it and read the headlines, I'm thinking this is ridiculous. I can't think what these guys are going through, and it finally happened to me, you know.
Has this ever happened to you even before the UFC?
No,
Wow.
never, man.
Well, I thought you handled it very well, so kudos to you, and you made the right decision. You know, if for whatever it's worth, I think you 100% made the right decision. Sorry it worked out this way. I appreciate you coming on, and I hope you get to fight very soon. Always great to see you, and I want to see you continue that winning streak at 155. It's been great as of late.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I feel great, and you know, I have no injuries, so I actually just left the gym. I'm right here in the grocery store parking lot.
Oh.
I'm already back in the gym, so we'll get something lined up, you know. And I really, Ariel, I want to thank you. Thanks for your support, man. It means a lot. I feel like I made the right decision, and anybody who questions my warrior spirit, let's line up a fight, and I'll show you it in person. Go to the fight and see what happens live. You know?
Well said. Thank you, Dustin. All the best to you. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, man.
All right, there he is, Dustin Poirier. I think a decision like that is what actually makes the sport better. It shows the evolution of the sport. You know, we may be used to back in the day, guys, you know, taking fights like that. And look, if someone wants to take a fight, their prerogative. Go ahead, take the fight. You have your reasons. You have bills to pay. I'm not going to begrudge anyone for doing that, but I certainly don't think anyone should be criticized for not taking a fight on 3 days' notice against an opponent they did not prepare for, flew all the way there to fight someone, and then the rug gets pulled under you. That's the kind of decision a professional athlete should and needs to make, and we're seeing this more and more. We're seeing this more and more out of these pro athletes. That's actually a good sign. That's actually reassuring. So I'm not saying that Dustin, you know, I wouldn't tell someone like Dustin Poirier if I was in his corner, like, you know, you're making the wrong decision by taking this fight if it's offered to you. But I will say that I'm happy a guy like him who has won. I mean, it's understandable that a lower-ranked guy would want that fight. Why wouldn't he? This is the kind of opportunity. That's why Charlie Brenneman took the Rick Story fight. But in hindsight, I don't think Rick Story should have taken that fight. I don't think John Jones needed to take the Chael Sonnen fight. And on it goes. So I actually think that this is a reassuring sign, a good sign. It's a sign of the times. It's a sign that the sport is moving in the right direction. Anyone questioning Dustin Poirier is just being an ass. Let's move along. Let's talk to someone who had a fantastic night on Saturday, one of the great stories of Saturday in Dublin, and it was great that as a veteran and a pioneer for that part of the world, that she got to have that moment. I'm talking about Aisling Daly, who joins us right now via the phone. Aisling, how are you?
I'm awesome, thank you, Ariel. I'm actually joining you guys from a small little old man pub in Dublin, celebrating my sister's birthday in front of an open fire. So thanks very much for having me on.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry that we're interrupting the birthday party. Happy birthday to your sister, but I appreciate you coming on, especially after a big weekend. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. I wouldn't have missed this for the world.
So okay, there's so much I want to talk to you about, but the first thing is you know, you got to watch I keep calling it the first show in Dublin, but it's really the second. You get what I'm trying to say. You got to watch it when you were in the house for The Ultimate Fighter, and we've talked about in the past how difficult that was for you. I'm sure you dreamt about it. I'm sure you dreamt about walking out there and being in front of your people. But you know, was that beyond your wildest dreams? What you experienced on Saturday?
Honestly, it was far beyond my expectations completely. You know, it was kind of the stuff of legend from the show that happened in the Ultimate Fighter house. You know, all the guys spoke about the crowd and how amazing the experience was, but nothing prepared me for what exactly happened on that night. To have tens of thousands of people singing along to my walkout music and to feel the energy from the crowd as I was walking out was absolutely phenomenal. I still can't get my head around it now. Like I said, I'm here with my family now and I'm just back to normal life, and it almost feels like somebody else that made that walk on Saturday night rather than me. I feel a little bit like it was an out-of-body experience. It was absolutely amazing. I can't really put into words what it felt.
What's going through your mind as all that is happening, especially for someone who's been around the sport? You, like Peter Carroll said at the top, you are a pioneer. You've been doing this since, back in the day when there were only probably 5 people training MMA in Ireland, and you get to make that walk in front of your people, and they're singing along, they're cheering you on. Are you able to even understand what is happening? Are you getting too emotional? What's happening in your mind?
To be honest, I was just thinking to myself, wow, I was like, this is absolutely insane. But then there's a little voice in the back of my head going, okay, focus at the job at hand, take it in, enjoy this moment, savor what you can see, give yourself another 5 or 10 seconds to enjoy it, and then we're back to blanking out everything and going about business, because I could feel the emotions from the crowd were running so high. I didn't want those emotions to sway me too much either way. I didn't want to be overwhelmed by the occasion, because ultimately I haven't done anything yet. I haven't achieved anything. Walking out is the easy part. The fight is the hard part to come in front of me. So I was just trying to keep my emotions in check to give my best performance. And then obviously when the decision and stuff was announced, and I just couldn't keep it together anymore. I was up on the side of the octagon, bawling my eyes out with pride and happiness, and the floodgates opened, as they say.
You bum rushed her right as the fight started. You went right for her. You made a beeline. Was that the plan from the beginning, or was that your emotions?
I think it was a little bit of a combination of both. My coach had given me instructions to kind of go old school, look for the clinch, look for some dirty boxing, aggressive takedowns, aggressive ground and pound. He'd give me a few kind of set combinations that he wanted me to work to close the distance, but just with the level of excitement and the level of hype, and honestly just how good I felt going into the fight, it was very difficult for me to kind of almost stick to the game plan for the first few seconds. It was kind of that diving board analogy. I felt like I was on the side of the diving board, just going, ah! And then suddenly, I hit the water and I was swimming, and as soon as I could kind of get hands on her, I kind of settled a little bit, and I was a little bit calmer. And to be honest, it was one of the few fights I've had where I actually knew exactly what was going on. Like, I remember pretty much everything about the fight as the exchanges were happening, as we were going through the different positions. I was thinking, talking to myself. The actually only 2 voices I could hear in the crowd were my coach and Connor's. And Connor was in a completely different part of the arena, and his voice was at a completely different pitch, but I could still hear him. It was bizarre. I guess it's just familiarity. So being so close to my coach and being so close to Connor, it's just the only 2 voices I could tune into of everybody in the arena.
I was just about to ask you about that, because it was great to watch it. He was standing up. I don't know if you noticed that, and he was cheering you on and obviously shouting out instructions. Is that even helpful? Is he actually telling you things, or is it more just encouragement?
No, his instructions are actually really clear and concise, and they're good openings for the positions, particularly towards the end of the 3rd round. There was a moment where I had good posture and I had good control of her feet, and I heard Connor shout straight left to the body, and within a second, that's what I had thrown. I had thrown a hard straight left to the body, so they were definitely good instructions.
What was your mindset like going in after seeing what happened to Cathal Pendred? Did that mess you up at all?
To be honest, I really just tried to pretend like I didn't see that. Obviously, I'm warming up in the back. I can see the screens, and I saw the finish at the end, and my heart did break a little bit seeing my friend and teammate like that. But I really had to just put it to the back of my mind and know that I had work to do and that I had business to take care of, and that I could come back to that afterwards. Obviously we're a very close team, or we're like more of a family than just a team. So it did definitely bother me, but at the end of the day, when the octagon door closes, we're alone in there. So we train as hard as we can as a team, and we support each other, but we're alone come fight time. So I really just had to focus on myself at that point. So I spoke to Carroll afterwards, and he was physically good, but obviously definitely through his pride and upset and all those kind of things. But he knows what the game is like. We all have our nights. There's been nights where all the guys have taken wins and I've been the one to lose or whatever. So it's just the name of the game. I think Connor put it perfectly with his tweet. The nature of the game is bittersweet, and sometimes it's your night and sometimes it's not.
So a lot was made going into the fight about your weight cut and your nutrition, your physique. It appeared like you were in great shape on weigh-in day and that you weren't struggling at all. What was the difference this time around?
Definitely the difference with this time was I have a new nutritionist, a girl called Lindsay Doyle. She's a competitive athlete herself, and obviously being a woman, she just has a better understanding of a woman's body and how weight cuts affect women. And I've been training my ass off for the fight, and my weight just wasn't coming down. I was plateauing. I was having a really tough time in training. And in the space of 3 weeks, she managed to really turn the whole outlook of that camp around, because anybody who knows me knows that I'm a phenomenally hard worker. It's not a case of me not working hard. It's just a case of me not really having the formula right. And pretty much she is the formula. A lot of the stuff I was doing, she just changed it around. She thought some of the stuff I was doing was crazy. Basically the way she described it is be kind to your body and your body will be kind to you. It'll do what you want it to do. Whereas I was kind of the old school mentality of almost just keep smashing your body till it breaks, or, eventually something, it might work that way. So she just encouraged me to be kinder to myself and changed up my routine. And honestly, the performance on the night, a lot of it was down to her. I put the work in training, but she gave me the plan to follow, and it was one of the best performances of my career. When it came to the bell ringing at the end of round 3, I honestly was disappointed that there wasn't more rounds left. I felt so good in between rounds. It's rare you see a fighter jog back to their corner in between rounds. Usually they're kind of savouring the break, but honestly I felt fantastic. I feel like she's given me a new body. I feel like I'm driving a Ferrari now, where, before that I was probably driving an old dented beat up car. I was honestly getting to the point where I was wondering was there too many miles on the clock? Had I been around the game a little bit too long? And honestly now I'm just rejuvenated with that taken care of, which was the big issue for me all along, being one of the bigger girls at 115. So to have the cut down to pretty much perfection now at this point it's just going to change the game for me. I think that was a good performance I had the other night, and I'm only going to get better now. You know what I mean? Like I said, she only had 3 weeks to work with me coming up to this fight. When you guys see me again, when she's had months to work with me, I'm so excited to see what she's going to be able to do with me.
It was obvious that the fight meant a lot to you. We all knew that. No surprise there. Do you remember telling yourself in between the second and third round, like, I cannot lose this. This will be devastating. What did you allow yourself to think that way?
No, definitely. I never doubted myself for a second in that fight. I never thought that I was losing, even in what some people would probably call a bad position, maybe when she had my back in the fight. I knew she definitely wasn't going to finish me, and I knew that she wasn't actually getting anything. She was on the back, but she wasn't capitalising on the position. She wasn't landing any. If anything, she was being beat up. I had good wrist control, and I was landing some heavy shots. Watching the fight back, I could see the frustration on her face because she has the dominant position where she's taking the most damage. Honestly, for a second during that fight, I never doubted myself. I was winning. In my mind, I was winning every moment, and I felt so good, and I was so focused and so determined that I never had any pressure on myself. I was just enjoying the whole experience, even just moments where maybe I was looking to capitalise on the position, maybe get the pass. She was doing a really good job of working her open guard and her up kicks, and I was like, okay, well, I'm having trouble passing the legs here. It's not happening, but what can I damage in the meantime, So everybody knows what it's like when they're sparring and you accidentally clip somebody's elbow with your shin. So I was like, hey, why not just elbow her in the shin and see what happens, all those little injuries that would suck when you get them in training. I was like, well, they're the only targets I have right now, so let's see what I can do with them.
You said something very interesting after the fight, and I really give you a lot of respect for your honesty, and I love hearing that emotion, even though it was not the most positive thing. You said you kind of watched your teammates. You were afraid that you were going to be left behind. They had this moment. You couldn't experience that moment, and I don't know if you've talked about this before. I think, Peter said that you may have talked about it in interviews, but I missed that, so it was news to me. How strong were those emotions? Did it really bother you that you couldn't get to to have that moment in the sun like they all did. I know to a degree it was something that you were struggling with, but did you really feel like you were being left behind?
Yes, definitely. Like, the guys became a household name. The guys were earning money based off of last year, whether it was, signings or TV stuff. Like, all the guys were household names. If you spoke about mixed martial arts, everybody knew Carl Pendridge, Paddy Houlihan, Conor McGregor, and nobody knew who I was. Sometimes it'd be a case of people not even knowing that I trained in the sport. Oh, do you do that as well? Like, I just had no acknowledgement for any of my achievements or my participation in getting to the sport to the level that it is at in the country now. So it was difficult for me to deal with that. Anybody who's a competitive athlete has an ego, some bigger than others, but I definitely do. You don't want to be the best in the world and not have an ego. So it was hard for me to kind of see all the success for the guys. Definitely not in a begrudging way, but just in a way like I want that for myself also. I'm super happy that they are getting so much success, but I want some of that for me too. So, and the way it all kind of panned out in the end, I guess it was almost better for me to not be on the first show because I probably would have been lost in the madness. Whereas the way things worked out on Saturday, it gave me the opportunity to steal the show. And I think a lot of the media and stuff coming up to it, it really let people get to know me. And as well as that, I think people got to see what I came through. I'd been through a lot of kind of personal struggles and stuff over the last while, with the Ultimate Fighter, even before that, mental health problems, all that kind of stuff. So it really was one of those kind of stories that I think a lot of people could relate to and take something from. Here's this girl who had all this trouble. She had these problems. She wasn't doing as well as she wanted, even though she was working hard. And now things have come good for her. You know what I mean? It's like hard work pays off, positivity pays off. That kind of idea of just being happy and grateful and supportive and trying to bring happiness to those around you, and then it'll come back to you in the end.
How are things going with that? Do you feel like you've conquered that issue, or is it still something that you're dealing with, the mental health issues?
I definitely feel like I wouldn't say past it. I think if you've ever struggled with those kind of issues, there'll always be a little bit there that you have to monitor. Maybe you're going to have bad days. Maybe you're going to have bad spells. You just have to keep an eye on things. But honestly, I just feel almost renewed as a person. The way I keep describing it to people is like I feel like I'm 18 again. I feel like I just turned pro. I feel like I've just gotten started in the sport again. That's how excited I am about it. Like earlier on today, we had a fantastic seminar at our gym. Ryan Hall on the current season of the Ultimate Fighter teaching a seminar. I wanted to go to the gym to train, and my coach was like, maybe just take today off the mat, just watch. But that's how excited I am. I had such a great win on Saturday night, and I'm back to the gym Monday trying to learn, trying to improve. I want to be the best strawweight on the planet. I want to be the most well-rounded on the planet. So one of the things I thought to myself at certain points during the fight on Saturday night was, I wish I had a decent footlock. Maybe I'd footlock this girl since I can't pass a guard. So I was checking out Ryan Hall's footlock game today. Maybe I'll bust one out in my next fight.
I know you're very close with Paddy Houlihan. It was a tough night for him. It was emotional to see him like that after the fight. What a tremendous fight it was, a great performance. I thought they both deserved a bonus. What was that like for you? Such an exciting moment, such a great moment, but then to see your friend like that.
To be honest, it was heartbreaking for me. When I came in after my fight, I just went into the changing room. I wished Paddy luck, and because we were mixed around on the card and stuff from weeks out, we had already kind of agreed that we wouldn't be in each other's corners, just to save any hassle and paperwork needed to be done and stuff. So one of the rules in our team is kind of to win or lose, that we leave the changing room alone for the other person to get the job done. We don't want to distract them or influence them in any way, positive or negative. So I wish them luck, and said all the things that you say to your friend before they go out to have the biggest fight of their life. And then I watched on a screen in the green room, and he had a phenomenal first round. Honestly, I thought he was going to finish the fight in the first round. And sometimes you just get caught, or there's that one shot, and things just went off game plan after that. And when I saw the finish of the fight, I just started crying. I just started bawling my eyes out in the middle of the green room. I couldn't really keep myself together for that. To see your friends like that, and knowing how much all that means to them and how much work they've put in, and to see it not go away, it was really hard. But at the same time, I know Paddy, and I know he'll be back stronger. And he picked me up enough times, and I'll pick him up this time and dust him off, and we'll be back to the gym together, and we'll be improving. Because like I said, we're not just teammates, we're more like family. It felt like part of me was out there in the fight, so it was very hard to watch. But Paddy's such a humble guy, and one of the things that I'm really unhappy about at the moment is the people who are taking this opportunity to just kind of dig the knife in and twist it a little bit unnecessarily. I've seen some negative comments from other fighters and fans and stuff, and they don't have a right. There's nobody more humble than Paddy. There's no nicer guy than Paddy. So for people to be trying to make out as if Paddy was cocky and arrogant and wasn't somehow served up some humble pie or whatever, that's just not true. It's not accurate. You'll never meet anybody more humble, more gracious than Paddy. So I doubt I can say anything to change it, but it would be pretty nice if those people would take a step back and try and put themselves in that position. And, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Well said. I saw those exact comments myself, and I was surprised. I think those people. I mean, I would agree with everything you just said about the man. I've known him only for a brief amount of time, but a special guy, and definitely one of the more humble athletes I've ever come across. So that was disappointing to see as well, especially in a low moment for him. Just a couple more questions for Aisling Daly, and then we'll let her get back to her birthday party. Again, thank you so much for the time.
No problem at all.
Speaking of negative comments, Claudia Gadelia took to Twitter to I guess, what did the kids say? Put some shine over your win. I don't know if that's a term that they use over in Ireland, but she didn't seem all that impressed. What did you make of her comments?
To be honest, I think it was just jealousy. I'm having this phenomenal moment with my whole country standing beside me, supporting me, and she's not having that. Nobody's paying attention to her. Or she's fought in Brazil a whole heap of times, and nobody in her country really cares about her. So, for me, it was just trying to steal a bit of my limelight, I guess. That's the way I'd see it. I honestly don't really pay too much attention to Claudia's comments. I think she's a bit of a hothead. I think she just kind of overreacts to things, takes things, more serious than they need to be taken. For me, at the end of the day, this is a sport, and I'm just trying to be the best I can be. And I have to compete against others as a way of measuring myself. That's the way I've always looked at this sport. So I actually have no personal feelings towards Claudia. I've no anger towards her. I genuinely don't feel anything towards her. So if the fight wants to be booked, if the matchmakers see fit, then let's do it. If not, bring me on whoever else. But I don't have time or energy to get into Twitter battles like that. And to be honest, I just think it's so negative. You know what I mean? It's like I was saying earlier, like I've come so far, and I have just a new positive outlook on life that I have this like little bubble, and everything in it to me is just happy and positive, and I'm so proud of myself, and I'm so grateful for the good people I have around me, and I feel so privileged to have these opportunities in front of me. To be able to make a living from my dreams is absolutely amazing to me. I'm just so happy. So to have somebody like Claudia just kind of trying to make negatives in the background, what's the point? To give that time and to give that energy, to let that live rent-free in my head for any reason would just be a waste of happiness. And, life is short. Why do you want to waste any seconds of happiness?
Would you say that Saturday night was one of the best moments, if not the best moment of your life?
I definitely think it was the best experience of my life. I can say that bar none. I've never felt anything like that, and I don't think I'll ever feel anything like that again. You know, some people have said to me, like, oh, well, would you not feel like that about a title or something like that? I'm like, yes, I still want to get that belt. I'm so motivated to go get it, but it was just different. It was a different kind of achievement. That to me was, you know, recognition from your country for work you've done, whereas a belt will be recognition by the sport and the rankings and all that kind of stuff. It'll just be different, but definitely amazing. But just some experience, like, I don't know if you got to see the video of the walkout and stuff. It was just crazy, like to be singing along to your own entrance music and have 10,000 people sing the words back at you, and to feel every single person in the room willing you on to win is just, I can't even describe it. And like I said, unless there's a title fight happening in Dublin again, I don't think I'll ever get that experience again. And I think it's going to be one of those things that I'm going to be sitting with my grandchildren, gathering them all around, telling them about the time I fought in Dublin, and they're all going to be rolling their eyes going, okay, Granny Ash, stop telling us this story. We've heard it 10 times already. And I'll be like taking out the scrapbook of the newspaper cuttings and whatever newfangled technology they have at the time. They'll be like super bored playing with their holograms or something.
That's beautiful. I love that. Well, by the way, one last thing. Just out of curiosity, is there any specific reason why that song means so much to you, or Ireland? Is there something that I don't know about?
It's basically a song about the Troubles and the 1916 Rising, and it's just kind of like a war anthem. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but it's basically about the strife of our country, different things that the country has been through, you know, between civil war, everything. It's just one of those songs that I think it has a lot of meaning to different people individually. Different verses in the song talk about different points in Irish history, but it's basically like a war anthem, you know, kind of about the pointlessness of war and the damage it causes, and, you know, and at the same time it is a little bit about fighting with the demons in your own head, you know. So it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and it's such a well-known song. You know, the Cranberries are such a huge band over here that it does mean a lot to me. I really feel like it focuses me, but, you know, it means something to nearly each individual person when they hear it.
Well, you know, Aisling, a lot of people give me crap sometimes for saying, oh, I get too excited about the Irish fighters, or this is a story that I've talked about too much. What you've just said to us in the last 20 minutes is exactly why I feel the way I do about you fighters in particular. Just such fascinating people, but just such good people. And it's so nice to see you get so emotional about this moment, how much it meant to you, and see that, you know, a professional athlete can still get touched by these moments and see it, you know, see your life change in front of our eyes. It's a beautiful thing. And I'm so happy that you got to experience it. I'm happy for you that you won. And I'm looking forward to this new Aisling Daly with your nutritionist and seeing where you go from here. More importantly, thank you so much for the time. Enjoy your birthday party. Happy birthday to your sister, and enjoy that victory. You deserved it. You deserved that moment, and I'm happy you got to get it finally.
Thanks so much for having me on, Ariel. Honestly, it was a pleasure, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Thanks so much for all the nice things you said, and thank you so much to all the fans. You know, I've gotten such an amazing response, and honestly, I'm completely overwhelmed, and I appreciate everything that I'm hearing. It's fantastic.
Enjoy it. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
There she is, Ash the Bash, joining us. So happy that she was able to make some time at the last minute. Great stuff, and we congratulate her on her win. November 7th, the UFC returns to Brazil. Huge fight on that card, co-main event. It's Pat Cummins versus Glover Teixeira. He joins us right now via the magic Skype. There he is, our old pal, Pat Cummins, who for a second I thought had forgotten about us. I think it's been over a year since you've been on this show, Pat. Where have you been?
I missed you guys.
Yes. Well,
I've been busy in Brazil all the time.
Yes, they like to have you out there, and we'll talk about that. The Skype is a little pixelated, but I can see you. What's going on with your eyes? Do you have two black eyes?
Listen, if I'm not beat up in training camp, I'm not ready for the fight. So I always have something.
So this is typical for you?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think I just mark up really easily.
Okay.
At least I like to think that.
Now I'm happy that I got to see you. I'm happy we got to talk about the eyes, but the audio is just a little messed up. So if you don't mind, can we call you on your phone so I can hear you better?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We're going to call Pat on his phone because the audio is a little distorted and pixelated, and I want to hear from the guy, although it was good to see him. And it has been some time. What a huge fight this is for Patrick Cummins. Co-main event of a very big show against a formidable opponent, an opponent who just beat the last man to defeat him. That was Ovin St. Preux. Glover Teixeira, former title contender, former title challenger, lost to John Jones at UFC 172. The UFC puts Pat through tough fights. Very tough fights. And this one's no different. The man has not had an easy road in the UFC. There's no doubt about that. Of course, we all remember he took that fight against Daniel Cormier on short notice and has rebounded quite well. Is he on the line? Pat, are you there?
I'm here.
There he is.
There.
Okay, let's talk about this fight. Were you surprised when you got Glover Teixeira in Brazil?
A little bit, yeah. We kind of, I mean, the same thing, we do it every time. We go through and look, okay, who could possibly be next? And, as we progress, the window is smaller and smaller. So we kind of looked through and we thought, man, there's really no one available right now. And we thought of Glover as a possibility, but, yeah, I mean, we didn't really, it was like, I'm not sure if they'll put me there. And then I just thought, well, if not, we're looking at a kind of a long layoff. And I like to stay active. I like to think that experience is the most important thing for me. And, I felt very fortunate to get this fight.
Is it not true that they actually discussed this fight back in June when Gustafsson pulled out and they needed someone in New Orleans?
Yeah, that is true. They talked about it. We said, yeah, we'll absolutely do that. And then they decided to take another course of action. But actually after that, we kind of thought, well, there's a better possibility because they offered that,
right.
Prior.
In other words, it seems like they've wanted to book you against Glover for quite some time. Do you have any idea why?
No. I actually think this fight's a great matchup, and I think it's two guys that I believe are the hardest working guys in the weight class, and there's really no quit in either of us, and I think that kind of makes for a special matchup and an interesting fight.
How do you feel about going back to Brazil?
It's like going back to the old playground again. I mean, seems like I'm always there now, so it's less of an issue now. Initially it was kind of like, man, that's a lot of travel. We got to go into kind of enemy territory, and but now I feel kind of seasoned. I've been down there quite a bit. I feel good about it.
This is your third time fighting in Brazil. The last time was back in August. You defeated Rafael Fajá. What a great performance that was. What a great win. Thus far, I know it's a relatively short career, but does that one stick out? Is that the best in your mind thus far?
Yeah, that's definitely the most emotional win I've had, because I think it kind of unlocked something in me. And, I really started to feel much more comfortable, and it's hard to explain. I look back on it and I thought, man, this makes a lot of sense. That's my 10th fight, and it seems like to me that's the number. I needed that much experience, and now I can really start to feel comfortable and really increase my potential out there. I feel like I've been kind of producing maybe 50-60% of what I can do when it comes to competition. So now I'm really expecting to jump to the next level.
So you say that it unlocked something in you. What needed to be done to get it unlocked, and what was unlocked?
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
I'm not a really emotional guy when it comes to, I always sit back and watch guys and they'll celebrate their victory and, kind of go crazy for a minute. And I always think, man, you should go out there expecting to win. Like, what do you do? Why are you doing that? And it really, my kind of celebration just really took me off guard and just, I just freaked out for a minute and I don't really remember doing it. And I think that's kind of, I needed to tap into that emotional side and to really do what I'm capable of.
Did it have anything to do with the OSP fight that you were coming off of? That was, obviously disappointing and not how you expected it to go. Were you feeling that pressure? Were you trying to get that monkey off your back? Basically, did one have anything to do with the other?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think people a lot overlook the amount of pressure put on guys, especially coming off a loss. And you put the pressure on yourself too, because at least I do. I expect myself to win every time I step in there, and when it doesn't happen, it's devastating. And it really, you just want so badly to get back in there and right that wrong. And that's basically what happened. So I think, it was a combination of everything.
Because you sort of came in through the back door after a long struggle of, not finding fights, you take the Cormier fight on very short notice. Have you constantly felt the need, even though you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fights in, to prove yourself, to prove that you belong? 2 in a row, people start questioning you. Even after the OSP fight, people are questioning you whether or not you belong. If you're just, they still stuck on this barista thing, even though that was a very short-lived job to begin with. Do you constantly feel the need to prove to people that you actually belong and you are, in fact, a UFC fighter, one that, has earned the right to be there?
Initially, I've kind of felt like that was the case. 1 or 2 fights after my debut, I really felt like, man, I need to prove this to everybody, because I knew myself that I can go in there and compete and do well. But I think now more so I've kind of focused on myself, and I always talk about my potential, and I haven't reached it yet. But every fight I get a little closer to that 100% potential that I can put out there. And every time I'm there, it's like 10% jump or 5% jump. Like, okay, I feel, but improvement is improvement, and I really take good and bad from every fight, but I really focus on the good, and I really I really feel like at this point in my career, I'm ready to take that big jump and make that 20-30% jump and really get going out there and make people notice what I'm doing. And that's not the end game. I don't really care if people think, oh wow, this guy can really fight. I don't care. It's about me. It's about the competition. If we really, that's really why I got into MMA, because I competed a long time in wrestling, and I just felt like wrestling had run its course, and now, but I haven't competed enough. I still have that drive, and that's why I'm here, and that's what it's to show myself that I can do it.
That being said, I do feel like a lot of that talk has gone away after the Feijao fight. I think I don't think you needed that particular performance to do it, but these things go. I feel like you've earned that respect from everyone. I remember seeing a picture. I think it was Joe Rogan that tweeted after the fact of your face. Even I saw you right after the fight, and I tweeted a picture, but he saw you in the airport, and your face. Both eyes seemed pretty busted up. How painful was that flight?
The flight wasn't bad, but it was the day after. We were, I want to get out. I want to walk around, see Rio, and we were walking. I forget, we were walking like 2 or 3 miles, just kind of seeing everything, walking through the city, getting something to eat, just relaxing. And at a certain point, I remember like just feeling my face bounce around, and I just thought, oh man, hold on, I need to sit down. Like this is a bad idea. I should be laying on the beach instead of walking around. But it wasn't, surprisingly, it wasn't very painful. I think it just kind of caught me in the right place. Anytime you take a shot to the eyeball, or at least for me, it really explodes and swells up like crazy, and that's kind of what I was dealing with. But yeah, I mean, I felt really the rest of my body and my overall health, like I've never felt better after a fight than that. But I looked completely awful.
How long did you wait before getting punched in the face again?
I took a decent amount of time off from sparring.
Okay.
But yeah, it took a while. Like the blood vessels in my eyes were all jacked up, so it took a while. I waited until my eyes cleared. It was probably a good 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
So where's home for you these days? Because I know Rain is no more. I know you trained with Shogun prior to 190, also at Ruka a little bit. Do you have a home?
We're kind of bouncing around. I mean, I would call Kings and Ruka my home. It's been unfortunate this camp to have Michael Bisping out. He's been one of my main training partners at Ruka, and so he's a little banged up. He's getting healthy, but so we've been going more and more to Kings, and those guys. I mean, I've trained with those guys since the beginning, along with Rain. So it wasn't like a big transition, or I had to, oh no, what am I going to do next? Southern California is still a huge place for MMA, and there's plenty of guys to train with. And
did you get a chance? I mean, what's the now that you've been there 3 times, you might know the answer. What's the pancake scene like in Brazil?
I haven't had a pancake in Brazil. I've never see it. I never see it on a menu. I don't know. I really feel the need to bring pancakes to Brazil. Maybe that can be my gift.
Yeah, I don't know if it exists. I'll have to ask my colleague Guilherme, who lives there. Maybe that could be, maybe they, instead of calling it pancake, some form of Portuguese, they call it like the Cummins or something like that, like in honor of you. What do you think?
Durkin.
Or Durkin, yes. Did you watch Glover versus OSP? And if so, are you there were questions about Glover. Is he reaching the end and all that? He had some struggles against Phil Davis, of course, after that, and maybe that's a fight that you can lean on. But were you impressed with what he did against OSP?
I kind of feel like he followed the game plan. The same game plan I had. Just things went a little awry for me. But yeah, he's an intelligent fighter. I think that's one of his strengths. He can have a game plan, stick to it when he needs to, and evolve if he has to. So, I was impressed with that fight. And, although I really felt like, the OSP fight for me was heartbreaking. I really felt like I was getting the better of him and really starting to turn the screws a little bit. And, things happen. That's why MMA is so exciting. But it's a lot of people said, hey man, listen, you were doing great. It's not like you're getting beat around the cage and then finally you lost. It was you were doing great and you got caught. And I didn't really take any solace in that because I just it hurts that much more when you're doing really well and you have that you have that potential. You're like, oh man, I'm doing it. Like here it is, and it gets taken away from you really quickly. So. But at the same time, I learned a lot from that fight. I learned a lot about myself, and really just that it always comes back for me. It always comes back to just getting back to the grind and really persevering and working my way back up to the top.
Did you watch that Phil Davis Glover fight a lot leading up to this one?
Yeah, we watched that a few times.
Is that the blueprint?
To a certain extent, yeah. I mean, Phil's a different style, wrestling style from me, but a lot of things he does, we can do, and I think I really, I mean, he handled that fight beautifully. So I guess a lot of people may complain that it was a little boring and whatnot, but at the end of the day, the job is to get the fight. To get the win in the fight. So
you don't mind a boring fight as long as you get the W?
Well, I mean, yeah, I don't mind it. I don't think I've really had a boring fight yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think my style doesn't really lend itself to a boring fight because I'm always pushing forward and really I want to push the pace. And but I can still use a lot of the same tactics from Phil in this fight to help me out.
By the way, side note, my colleague Guilherme Cruz tells me they do have pancakes in Brazil, and they're called panqueca. So good news.
I like that. All right. I'm going to have to check them out this time around.
Perhaps a celebratory panqueca on
right.
Sunday. Okay, just a couple more things, and then we'll let you go. He's ranked 4, so there's not a lot of room between him and, the title shot. Do you have any idea what a win means here?
Honestly, it's hard not to think about it. I'd like to say I'm not thinking about it. The only important fight is the next one. But yeah, of course, there's a lot of implications involved, and I think anybody that knows me or knows of me knows that I want that rematch of Daniel Cormier really badly, and that's kind of that's one of the main things that's driving me is to get back to that position and compete in a way that I know I can with him. So it's just incentive, it's fuel for the fire to keep climbing and to get to that shot, and hopefully it'll be right around the corner.
So you feel like you have a better chance of Cormier still the champion as opposed to if John fights him and John wins the belt back? Better chance of getting that shot, I mean.
Better, maybe. It's hard to think. Now that John's reinstated, it's kind of throws a curveball into things. But I'm like I said, I'm not going anywhere. I came here to fight. I need experience, so I'm not really worried. I'll take as many fights as I need to get to that position. And although sooner's better than later, but I'm ready. I'm ready whenever.
How do we win on November 7th? How do you foresee this going down?
I really see just a whole lot of pressure, and I think I say that every time I'm going into a fight. I really want to apply the pressure and make him make mistakes and capitalize on them. And whatever those mistakes are, I feel confident that I can capitalize. Whether it's a submission or a knockout, I really feel like those are both very good possibilities for me.
Well, this is very exciting. I love these kind of fights. The younger guy trying to take the spot of the older guy. You meeting on enemy territory for you. I don't know. I saw some people say it was a little too soon for you, but I disagree. I feel like the time is now, as the UFC likes to say. The time is right for Durkin.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that because I feel the exact same way.
Okay, good. If you would have said right now that you agree with those people, I think we might have had a problem. You know what? On second thought, I feel like I shouldn't be taking this fight. That'd be a weird thing to say. But I would appreciate the honesty, by the way.
Well, you know me. I'm a pretty honest guy.
Yes. It's good to talk to you again, my friend. Safe travels. When do you go over there? In a week or so?
It's been too long. I'm leaving actually a week from today.
Okay. Is it any different, by the way? Is it like or do you feel like you got it down as far as what you need for weight cutting and all that? You're a veteran when it comes to that in Brazil, I mean.
Yeah. I feel like I've got that recipe down. My the fight week is pretty dialed in right now. So
okay. Weight
comes off easy. Everything firing, ready to go. So
and
I'll be ready.
And you have the mad scientist Ryan Parsons in your corner, so that's always a good thing as well.
I do, yeah.
I wish you the best. Can't wait for the fight. Looking forward to it. Great to talk to you again. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Errol. Great to be on.
All right. Great stuff there from Patrick Cummins. I'm looking forward to that fight. I love those kinds of fights. That's an old school Joe Silva kind of fight. Younger guy, and I know he's not, the youngest. He's not a rookie or anything like that, but younger guy going into Brazil, fighting the veteran, fought for the belt. It's a perfect co-main event, if you will, for that Sao Paulo show. And it's a fight they've wanted for quite some time. I think it's great. I look forward to it November 7th in Sao Paulo. It's the co-main event for the Dan Henderson Vitor Belfort fight. All right, one more guest to go, and it's fitting that we talked to this man last because he stole the show in Ireland. He did not get a chance to fight in Ireland. He was supposed to fight Stipe Miocic. Miocic had to pull out due to an injury, but Ben Rothwell decided to go over there and be the man of the people that he is, much like he was at International Fight Week. He wanted to be with the people, hang out, go to the Q&A, all that stuff, and all accounts say that he stole the show, as expected. And he's kind enough to join us right now from Ireland. He's still there. Ben, are you there?
He says, as expected.
Yes.
You have a lot of faith in me?
I do have a lot of faith in you, believe it or not.
I'm trying to get warmed up. I'm just so nervous right now.
Okay. Well, let's.
I'm just more nervous. It's more nervous than even getting ready for a fight because it's just such a big deal. I'm just.
No, that's not true. But I'm honored that you would feel that way. We'll work through it together. Why are you still in Ireland, by the way? Yes, go ahead.
Well, the plan was to fight Saturday, and I have a very tight schedule for the week of the fight, so wanted to see Ireland. So I was planning on fighting, and airfare and everything was already set up. So I was going to take Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to check out Ireland, and now I'm sitting here ready to go home already. Now because I got to just cruise around Dublin and hang out with the fans all week.
Are you happy you did
and
that?
Here we are. Hey,
yes.
What?
What did you want to say?
I was going to say, let me fire off a quick list real quick because I was listening to your show earlier. I just wanted to touch up. I just wanted you, because we're doing a good job of this. I'll give you a list, and then we'll come back and touch on it. So I was just going to say a couple things right down the list, and then we'll try to get to my list. We'll get through your list because I know you got your list of questions. So I'm going to say we'll talk about Malki.
Okay.
And him talk about Frank Mir.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Let's talk about Dustin Poirier and how he didn't want to take the fight.
Yeah.
And my thoughts on that. Let's talk about Vitor Belfort, and let's talk about John Jones.
Wow.
So that was some of the,
Well, to be honest, these are way more interesting questions that I had in mind for you. So let's go through your list first. By the way, that's the first time anyone has actually, I'm okay with someone giving me questions. I'm not okay with someone taking away questions. So let's start with Malki. He said that Frank Mir wants a piece. What do you think?
It's interesting. It's an interesting situation for me. I was going to fight the number 4, number 3 ranked guy. Now I'm going to fight a guy that's, just coming off of a loss to a guy that I've been trying to book a fight with, an Andre. And it's kind of like, it's tough. It's like, how do I feel about that? But then I look at the landscape, and besides Frank Mir, there's only a couple other names that are getting thrown around, and those names aren't very probable. I mean, I'm not sure what's going on with their situation. I'm being told that some of these guys they're busy as well, and I don't want to wait. I want to fight as soon as I can, no later than January. I mean, anything past that's just too long. If I could fight, I've set it out there. If I could fight December 19th, I'm ready. I told Dana White came up and said hi to me, and I just told him, I'm like, feel comfortable knowing that December 19th you're going to have a co-main event. So I know he likes that, and I'm just very sincere in wanting to fight anybody, the best guys, So anyway, Frank Mir, obviously name gets thrown up, and because like I said, because of the way the landscape is, all these guys are booked. They have fights and already matched up. And, at least Frank Mir's in the top 10, and he's still a household name to fight. And if that's the fight that happens, then that's the fight that's the fight I need to take. But like I said, I'm trying to pursue the top guys here, so we'll just see what happens.
Who are some of the other names that have been brought to your attention?
I don't know. I mean, there's kind of who's ever in the top 10 that you can see that doesn't have a fight booked. It's like, well, obviously their names getting thrown around.
Okay, there aren't many of those. I mean, the only one that really comes to mind is Barnett.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, I was just testing you a little bit. See, just your knowledge. So the word is on him. He's really busy. I guess he's pursuing an acting career. I guess not pursuing, like, he has a movie gig lined up and stuff. So he's I think he picks and chooses his fights more. He's a little more like he's only interested in certain fights as well. So yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with him. He might just be busy. But Frank Mir, I guess, is saying he's up and wants to fight. So that's that.
Do you prefer Barnett over Mir if that's the final two that you're presented with?
Like kind of the same. I mean, they are and they aren't. I mean, I think Barnett's coming out. Barnett's a better fight because he's coming out a win.
Yeah.
A good win against Roy, the great. And Barnett, I mean, for so many years, the guy is just he's a very respected heavyweight and for good reason. I mean, he's a very well-rounded heavyweight, and everybody respects the guy, and I think the fight would mean more. Going out and you're gonna go out and put all the work in for a training camp. You're gonna beat somebody. You want that win to mean as much as it possibly can, and I think right now, obviously Barnett's gonna be in a better position than Frank Mir, but at the same time, I don't want to sit and wait.
Okay, so that takes care. Does that take care of Malki, or was there something else you wanted to say about him?
I don't know. It was the first time I've ever got to see him talk. It was kind of funny because Andre Arlovski's the one I was around him this week, and he's the one that brought it up. He's like, "Oh, I heard Frank Mir," and I was like, "What do you know?" And he laughs, and that's why. Because then I was putting it all together. Oh, he now be manager with Malki. So it makes me wonder: was Frank Mir and Andre both managed?
Yeah.
And when they fought each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a crazy scenario.
It is. Yeah. He has that scenario coming up with Ben Henderson and Thiago Alves.
Yeah, he's just managing everybody, huh?
I guess. What about you?
I heard him cracking off his list to you. I'm like, well then. Now listen.
Yes.
All right? And
okay.
I want you to listen and make sure you listen. Here.
Yes.
I'm just cracking. How many times did he tell you to listen?
Oh, yes. Oh, I thought you were going to go on some sort of rant on me right here.
I was...
Okay, well then let me ask you.
I think I'm ranted out listening to him.
Let me ask you. By the way, what
we can talk about Jones because he.
Wait. Well, what are you doing listening to my show? You're in Dublin. Why are you listening to the show? You should be doing other things, no?
I told you I've been here. This is like I'm working on almost day number 10.
Okay.
I'm burnt out, man. I could have went home today, and I'm not flying out till Wednesday. I'm like, oh God, what did I do? So I was sitting here in my room. I'm like, I was good. I'm glad I did. It's kind of like it equipped me, kind of let me know what was going on. And
Sure.
There I got the info because I actually sent Frank Mir a message asking if any of that was true, and he didn't respond yet. So I got my answer by listening to your show.
There you go.
More people need to listen to your show.
There we go. We need to clip that off and make that some sort of promo. Okay, let me ask you about Dustin Poirier. What do you want to say about him?
This is an interesting topic. I think one funny story is I had made a tweet saying, hey, new main event, me versus him, haha. And he didn't really respond or anything. And then he's down in the lobby, and he was talking to somebody, had their back to me, and I didn't see. And I go to him and I yelled in front of everybody. I'm like, oh, you don't want to take the fight? I'm like, what's wrong with you? Meaning our little exchange. And then Park was who he's talking to, and Park turns and looks at me, and Dustin had a face like, oh, like really, dude. And I was like, oh, it's like, dude, I was like, I didn't be. So it was funny. Like, I think he knew I was kidding. I didn't realize he was talking. He probably must have thought at first I was talking about him and Park, and I didn't even know who he was talking to. So I kind of felt bad, but I laughed. And
did you clear it up with him?
We had a moment. Well, I sat next to him then at the fight,
so
okay. I talked to him. I think he knew I was just messing around with him.
Do you agree with his decision
so
to
it brings me to the point of him saying...
Go ahead.
I keep cutting you off. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I think it's a slight delay because you're over there in Europe. I just wanted to know if you agree with his decision to not take the Park fight.
So that's quite interesting. I see you you definitely have the guy decide it's more sportsmanlike. That you see these decisions, and the guy's gonna have to make this choice. I said, and to hear that Dana White came up to him, talked to him in front of me too, and Dustin said Dana had called him, said it's no big deal, and said, man, rewind 2-3 years ago, I don't think that would have been the case. I think the head brass up. I'm like, you got to take this fight. You need this fight. And Joe and Dana are just kind of like, you know, you see there's a totally different UFC now. I mean, just everything, just how the, you know, like you were talking about Ratner pulling off Duffy. So it is very, I don't want to say exciting, but it's awesome to see. Like, wow, like they're really changing the way this is. It is a sport again. You know, it's a sport now. It isn't like it was. So it's cool that he didn't have any outside pressure that way. But as a fighter, in our heart, it's like he said, I see this with, it isn't him. And I'm not picking on him. It's just the lower weight classes. He says, oh, this isn't the fight that I trained for. I guess he's not the only one, but it's just I see how much different I am now, how much I've changed, because name any of the top 10 fighters, and I'm supposed to fight Stipe. And then they call Andre, and I got him fight Andre in a week's notice. That's fine. No, you got to fight Cain Velasquez. You're going to fight a pure wrestler. Guy's going to take you down. Fine. You're going to beat him. Well, you're going to go against Verdum. He's best grappler in the heavyweight division. That's fine. All right, no, you're going to fight Travis Brown instead. There's a heavy striker. Great. Going to beat him too. It does not. My game plan is the same for every one of these guys. And I finally realized, I understand, like, this is what it takes to be a champion. This is what it sounds like when you're going to be a champion. I just feel good to be in this place now. And when I kind of listen to the other guys, they're not there yet. Matt, especially with the lighter weight classes, and I've just heard this last couple of weeks, that guys, like, really fight a lot with matchmaking about who they have to fight. Like, me, it's like they call and say, this is who it is. And I say, you know, what's the date? Can you know, my biggest complaint is if I can, you know, stay out of certain countries or, you know, things like that. Like, as far as the opponent goes, it's like, okay. And kind of say, like, he did do a full training camp. He was ready to fight. And I know that he sat there in the arena watching Park fight going, damn it, I could have smoked this guy and had all of Ireland, you know, cheering for me right now. And, you know, but like you said, I agree with you. Every guy's different, and I don't criticize a guy for, you know, that he's in an important situation too. Like, if he did take the fight and he did lose, yeah, it's disastrous. You know, at least if he's going to fight a top-ranked guy with him and he loses, okay, maybe it's not as bad. But it was the fact that he said, I trained specifically for this guy. And I'm just that, I don't understand. Every one of my training camps is to fight anybody. You know, most of the time it's like I'm planning to fight Verdum. You know what I mean? Like, my game plan has to be able to beat anybody. So I just thought that was interesting. That's all.
You know, I guess my main point was, like, I could see where you're coming from, especially from your perspective and the spot that you're in now. It bothers me when I see a guy, like I said, who's 1-1 or something in the UFC. It's like, I would take that fight in a second. Of course you would, buddy. I mean, you don't have 15 fights under your belt. You're not the main event. Of course you would take that opportunity. You know, it's not fair for someone in that position to criticize Poirier, who has way more to lose, way more on the line. I'd like sometimes to see, you know, fighters it feels to me, are always so quick to go against each other and man up each other and show that they're tougher than the other. It'd be nice to see a few fighters say, yeah, if I was in Dustin's position, I would do the same thing. I would have made the exact same call. I don't see that often. And this happens, you know, with the Henry Cejudo, Nick Diaz situation and the John Jones 151 decision. Fighters need to stick together more, in my opinion.
I agree with it. I totally agree with where you're coming from. And then as far as calling somebody out, that's great. I call the 1-1 guy, Ken, by calling up Joe Silva privately and saying, hey, is this a fight? Are you interested in me filling in? And Joe can say, no, you're only 1-1, you know, not yet, buddy. Or you can say, yeah, we really need this fight. We're going to put you in. Great. But when you go on Twitter, like you know, and me and Matt talked after the fact, but the way he went about trying to call me out and what he proceeded to say after the fact was absurd. To say that he got a fight offered to him and then I turned it down. It was, dude, I ripped him to shreds. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you just blatantly lie?
Never happened, in your opinion.
He's like, yeah, because he's trying to get attention, and he even admitted it. I'm like, but you're still an asshole. Like, you're still losing respect, man. Like, you know, like you said, the camaraderie supposed to treat each other like a brotherhood. And like, yeah, he shit on that because he wanted he knew he would get people to talk, even though he knew there was no possible way the fight was going to happen. And I'm like, that's stupid. You know, privately call Joe. They can call me and offer me a fight. Good, we'll do it. But you can just go on Twitter and just blab your fucking mouth. Yeah, and then I agree with you. The guys that are 1-1 calling Dustin names and say, yeah, they're not martial artists. They're just clowns looking for attention, and you see right through it. and you're not the only one. It's just the people that matter see right through this shit. And these guys they need to learn better. But it doesn't, it comes from their camps too, and their coaches and the fighters that they're training with.
Yep.
Who's teaching these guys and how are they acting? And there's still a lot of growing up needs to be happening in the sport altogether. It's got to stop being a fighter. We got to become martial artists. So yeah, I agree with you on that point for sure.
What do you have to say about Vitor Belfort?
No, I wanted to ask you. Right on the. So I click on the screen that goes, Vitor Belfort will not be coming on today. You wanted to ask him questions that they do not want to answer.
Yeah.
And I was like, and then Malki brought up about, I'm guessing, I'm going to put on a win here, something to do with him and Jones, and that whole, it is interesting. I mean, I kind of forgot about it. I'm like, that's probably exactly what they wanted. Because when I first heard about it, I was like, it is, like, what? And then I kind of forgot about the last couple weeks, and you just brought it up again, and I'm like, I'm pissed off all over again. I'm like, what the hell is that? What is that? Like, that sounds like
it's disappointing.
Something not good.
It's disappointing because I booked him on Wednesday, and like his wife said to me, she's like, you reached out and asked for a comment on the situation, and when this all happened, the story came out by Josh Gross. And they didn't respond. That's fine. That's their prerogative. But when I booked them on Wednesday, you'd have to think that I'm still going to ask about it. And like I told her, I'm not going to spend 20 minutes talking about this. I want to know if he has anything to say. Does he have any comments? And then we can move on. I'm not going to spend 100% of the interview on this. I can assure you of that. But it makes me look like a hack if I don't at least bring it up. He could say whatever he wants, but there's certain questions that need to be asked. And they never brought it up on Wednesday. And only when I checked in 2 hours before the show on my way to the studio today and said, are we still good for today? Because I had a feeling something screwy was up. She said, well, you can't ask about this. And I said, look, I assure you, I give you my word. I will not, try to embarrass him or put him on the spot. I just want to know if he has any comment on the situation, on the story, from his perspective. What's the story? What do you want to say? I can assure you next week when he fights in Brazil, at least I hope, people are going to ask him. So why not address it now and then tell everyone next week, hey, I addressed it, if that's the way you want to go. Of course, I think you should address it multiple times, but at least talk about it. She said, no, he's not coming on the show. So that's disappointing. And I feel like, I feel uncomfortable making the story about me here, but I feel like people need to know that. I think that's, especially considering his past, it's worth knowing that certain questions. It's very rare that anyone ever asks me to do that. I believe I've even interviewed you over what happened in Milwaukee, and you never asked me not to ask about certain things. So, it was disappointing.
The difference is I want to address it because I face my problems. That's it. I face my problems. I take them on. I take responsibility. I told you, man, Vitor was awesome when I met him in July and how nice he was to me and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it just really sucks to hear that. Come on, man, be the warrior, be the man. Face this. It happened. There's nothing you can do about it. This is your responsibility. You went through this. This is yours. Like, fucking own it. Like, just deal with it. And no running and stuff. I don't know. It doesn't look good. Doesn't he watch, what could have been looked at as the GOAT and Silva? And I'm going to say it, Anderson Silva destroyed his legacy. Not because he got busted, but after the fact, to continually denying, showing just what a coward and what he is. Like, no respect for me whatsoever. To constantly, really, dude, you were tested multiple times. You had these substances in your body. Like, who are you trying to lie to? Like, you got busted. You're a cheat. You fucked up royally. Why are you going to sit here and continue to say you didn't do it? It's a disgrace. And that you're not a man. You're not a man. You're not a fighter. Care. You can throw some good punches and kicks, but inside of the person, you're gone. You're nothing. And I don't want to see Vitor take off. There's kind of running from it. He didn't deny nothing, but avoiding it is almost just as bad. It's like, don't do that, man. Just deal with this. It's no big deal. You got to fight against Henderson. You can make everybody forget and get in there. You've been tested now. You're clean. Go in there and beat Henderson. Great, man. We'll move on from this. But like you said, it just kind of makes matters worse when people don't want to handle their business the right way.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Wow. Strong words about Anderson Silva there. And by the way,
that's how I feel. I mean,
for
sure. It's part of the reason I'm telling you, when he got busted, it's part of what has made me me. Like, I just, something changed in me. And when that happened, it was just to have somebody we've looked up to for so long, just just fucking feel it so bad, and yeah.
Something
Like
definitely has
people
changed.
Criticize me, but you can look at my report and see that dude, I had a case. I could have fought. I could have fought it. Like the Wisconsin Commission gave me a warning because they're like, Ben did not have an advantage. We have 8 weeks of testing. Yes, he was high the night of the fight. He was low the week of and all these 8 weeks before. And you know what? I could have fought the whole thing. The UFC's the one that gave me suspension. And you know what I said? I said, it's my fault. It's 100% my fault. Even though a doctor was prescribing it and taking it and overlooking everything, it's not the doctor's fault. It was my choice, and that's it. And that's the difference between me and Anderson Silva.
Mm-hmm. And you and a lot of fighters, by the way.
Yeah.
But,
I'm not the only one, but it's like, yeah, we're the ones. We stand up and,
Was that the turning point for you? Because something has definitely changed. Like Ben Rothwell a year ago is not getting the kind of love from the people. And I saw your Twitter. The people there in Ireland love you. I mean, I joked calling you Mick Rothwell, but it's unbelievable. And it's not just in Ireland. You have connected with the people for some way, somehow. I noticed something different. Was it the Anderson thing that changed you? Is that what opened you up to the world?
My fighting happened, I always say, in the third round in the Vera fight. When I started, basically right before I go to finish him, that really was like something in my brain in that round opened up, and I've not been the same since. All right, so that's like the physical, the martial artist. But as far as like, I guess just reaching out and just how I feel inside about that this sport needs more than it's been getting, it happened with Anderson Silva. I mean, it started with John Jones, and first it was the cocaine, and then obviously the hit and run really threw me off the edge. But the Anderson Silva was even to me, it was even worse than that, because John Jones got in trouble and got busted, and he's dealing with his problems. Anderson Silva's not, and it's just it just makes me feel like there's so many people are let down from that, and I just know now I'm going to be the champion that the sport has not had and that it needs. And I can say it all I want, but I have to have the belt, and I'm going to prove it. It's actions speak louder than words, and that's why I know I'm destined for something.
Is that why you get the fight taken away from you, and then you're in Ireland, and Stipe gets booked against someone else? How do you react to that?
At first, I was obviously like anyone would expect, irate. I made some jokes on Twitter about it, and just I was trying to make my jokes. I tried to make them. I put X's on all of our faces on the poster and said, hey, it's the new poster. I was trying to make fun of a bad situation. It was just, there's nothing I can do about it. The UFC already signed him. There was nothing I could do. And it's just I'm going to be mad for a day or two. I mean, it really, I was sick for the whole day that I found out. And because I was just convinced, look, I pegged it. I pegged the event. I pegged the opponent. I knew everything. It was right there. It was January 2nd. And, Andre Arlovski. I'm like, this is my fight. And then they're like, no, we're going to give it to the guy that just fucking backed out with an injury. And I was just like, I've never seen this happen before, ever. Like somebody getting booked when, the week that they're supposed to fight. I just never seen anything like this before. So like I said, I already said it before that I don't say what's fair or anything like that, because that's the way life is. And within a couple of days, I was just getting over it. And by the time I got to the Q&A, that we did before the weigh-ins, I think I did a 180, and I just got happy, and I'm just like, this is going to work out. And the more I threw myself to the fans, the more I got over it, and I'm just like, yeah, this is why I'm here. I need to be here with the fans, and this is why everything I'm telling you, I'm going to be a different champion. I'm going to start proving it right now. And Ireland believes me, and they got my back now. Yeah. Because when all the other guys are in the VIP section, I literally went threw myself out into the fans. Like, I left the VIP area, and when everybody left, I still sit there and sign for a few more hours past. And I loved, every single person, literally. And when I was at the Q&A and it said I would take a picture of the whole place, I think I did. And I loved it. I loved every second of it. So that's part of what makes me different.
They are a special bunch over there. There's no doubt about that. Did you voice your displeasure about the whole situation to Dana when you spoke to him at the event?
Just a little bit. I mean, like I said, I don't want to be everybody's just going to bitch. It's like what you expect. I mean, there's nothing going to happen. Nothing. I'm going to sit there and bitch and complain. What's going to happen? Nothing. It's just going to make it worse. he don't want to hear it. You know, it's just everything. I just, you know, basically I just try to take it with stride, and he came up and he's like, he knew that I want to fight Junior DeSantos. He said, you know, he's like, yeah, I respect it. I'm like, hey, listen, December 19th, just take it to know you will have a co-main event no matter what. You know, and I said, Overeem or him, it's fine. I'm going to be ready. But they, you know, like he said, they're obviously trying to book me a fight. He's like, oh, it's one thing we got plenty of is fights. So he's like, we're going to be getting you a fight as soon as we can.
Did you ever
he knows.
Did you ever worry like, oh, I'm being too outspoken here on Twitter at the Q&A, all that stuff, or are they relatively receptive to you? Because I hope you don't get muzzled, but I'm curious because you were kind of critical, right?
The Q&A, I think I managed to avoid it. You know, the very first question was, I could have started that thing out either really negative, and I think I started out positive. You know,
yeah,
like you started it all with like, you know, you had a lot going on this week. How are you doing? I could have instantly started complaining about everything. And instead, I was just like, I was compensated because I get to be here with the greatest fans ever. You know, the whole place erupted. So it was like that just fueled my thought of like, yeah, I gotta keep this thing positive and just, just suck it up. Like, yeah, I maybe got a wrong deal, but I can. I trust. I've been knocked down from far worse, and this isn't gonna keep me down. And it's just everything happens for a reason. I have to believe that. So it's kind of like the story of my life. And this is one of those things where I don't understand it now, but I'm going to understand it later. And I just believe that 100%. And I just know that I'm on a different path right now, and I just got to stick to it. So some of the Twitter stuff, I didn't criticize the UFC. I just tried to crack some jokes. I thought they were, within reason, and people got a lot of attention. It seemed like people thought it was funny, and that's it. I just try to keep it funny and not bitch too much. I complain a little bit. I just said it doesn't make sense, and I said I didn't understand it, and then I did like 2 days of that, and I got over it and just stopped. I'm just gonna move on, and just started thinking about it. I started doing cardio and started training here, and just started focusing on when I get home, and I already got my training camp already set up. I got my trainers ready. Like, I'm a professional, and I'm just going to be ready for my opportunity when it comes.
What do you want to say about John Jones?
What was the point? Like, I know there's a couple things. I know the crowd in the Q&A had asked me too, and Andre Arlovski was like, I seemed like a lot of fighters really got his back. I just know that I could have set that dude to the flames. Because I think that, especially the Irish crowd, I'm like, yeah, the guy, does a hit and run. Like, what kind of team is that? They're like, like, I just think people are very disappointed. And I'm just like, again, to be in the negative or the positive, I'm like, well, that's not going to be the situation. But John Jones is a great player. And I hope, like, I want to help. I want to see him come back from this for sure. Like, he made some big mistakes, but, I mean, that's part of it. That's what our sport is, right? We lose. And then that's what's so great is you see somebody lose a fight and then come back and win the fight, or come back and be something, kind of like that story. And, I see a lot of the fighters, we were excited to see him come back from this, and, I hope he does.
Well, that's good to hear. By the way, speaking of Arlovski at the Q&A, what'd you make of him giving the no comment to the Nick Diaz situation?
Because he had no comment to almost every question he got asked.
What was up with that?
They're like, what do you think about if Dana White and Lorenzo got to fight each other? And, he's like, that's politically not correct. I'm not answering. And then he goes on to say, we all answer, and he's like, they're like, what if you fight Fedor? So then he does decide to answer that. Or what if Fedor comes in? He's like, well, I'm like Nike, just do it. I just started dying. I'm like, did he really just say that? It's funny because the whole Reebok deal is very sensitive, and it's just so funny that when he did decide to talk, he says Nike.
Oh.
But he, multiple questions, said no comments. I gave him a lot of shit, trust me.
It was good. It was entertaining. You killed it. It's amazing. Just looking at your Twitter, all the people, they have a way of showering you with love over there. What was the best? Like, was there a moment with some fans? You went to a bar or something? They treated you like royalty. Is there a specific encounter with someone in particular that really stood out from this this ongoing trip to Dublin?
I can't say that there was really, because there were so many, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, 4 days in a row. I was somewhere surrounded by Irish fans, and it was just an incredible experience for me that way. It was like just how they embraced me. Each day I seen it get bigger and bigger to the point where, like, after the weigh-ins, they brought us to like a party, and like the other guys went in, and then when I came in, the place was like, you heard them come in, and then the next guy goes in, and the next guy goes in, and it was just kind of like you didn't hear anything. When I walked in, the place erupted. I was like, damn, like that hasn't happened before. You know what I mean? Like, I'm standing next to Andre and Rory and Max out. You know what I mean? Like, they're all big name guys, so it was pretty cool. But Rory gets a lot of love, man. They really loved his fight. I was really happy to see him. I really liked hanging out with him a lot too. It was fun to see him open up the Q&A too. I was telling him, he was telling me, I'm like, yeah, because I watched you at the press conference before this fight with Robbie. It was like awful, like just absolutely awful. And he's like did a full 180, and he was cracking jokes. He kind of was like, yeah, something they were trying to see if GSP was coming back, and he was like, no. And then somebody got him in a loaded question later on, and he's like, yeah, so he wants to come back only for the big fights. And everybody was like, oh, and then he's like, all right, keep it in your pants. And I was like, listen to Glory, look at this guy. And then he was like, I don't know, he opened up. It was cool to see. And then we talked about it afterwards. He's like, yeah, I'm just decided I'm just going to start being myself. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's what we got to do. So I was excited for him, man. He's awesome, and just such a great fighter.
Your transformation, I must say, one of the great stories of 2015. You've quickly become one of the best characters in the sport. Please don't change.
Well, man, thank you.
What do you got planned for the rest of your trip? 2 more days in Dublin. What do you got?
I got a nice bed that I'm laying in here, and then maybe some more bed, and then maybe some more bed after that.
That's it?
Seriously, I went to the Guinness plant. I went and seen some castles. I went and, I got around. It was cool. Like I said, the whole week that I was going to be, sticking to the fight week. Like I said, fight week is very, it's regimented,
Yeah. So
I didn't have any of that. I was drinking the first day I got here. I started drinking Guinness, which is, not something I get to do. So I kind of even before I got to Saturday, I was already man, I'd seen everything. I was done, ready to go home. And
are you alone?
Yeah, that's that. What's that?
Are you alone?
No, I had a whole crew of people. It was really fun. I had 10 people here. I had four training partners, my wife, some family. Even had everywhere was cool. Everywhere I go, I had my a party with me. So we had a lot of fun.
But what about now?
Definitely makes
Are you alone now?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
I don't know. Yeah, we all decided to stick around till Wednesday. So.
Okay, last question. Since you're on a roll, how do you feel about Verdum fighting Kane again, getting that, making the immediate rematch for Kane, and who do you think wins?
I think Verdum wins. I do. I think he's got his number. So that's the easy one to get out of the way. As far as them fighting again, it makes as much sense as Stipe getting matched up during the week that he was supposed to fight me. So that's just that. There's just nothing makes sense whatsoever. And that's just how I take things now. I just don't try to understand it.
All right. We'll leave
Last of the Mohegans, I think Daniel Day-Lewis makes a quote about women. He's like, yeah, don't try to understand them. So I'm like, that's kind of like the UFC. Just don't try to understand it.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Ben, a pleasure as always.
He's like, don't say anything else. Don't make him mad.
No.
No, man, I'm pro UFC, man.
No,
that's best organization in the world. And I get to wear the Fly Reebok gear. I'm just gonna give it a plug for them real quick.
Okay.
I really do feel bad for them that they have a bad deal with the marketing.
Yeah.
Because it is the sweatshirt is one of the nicest sweatshirts I ever had. They really did try to make us nice gear. I don't think anybody said the stuff is bad. The gear's not bad. It's nice stuff. The marketing is just they just need to fire all the marketing people and just try to start over because It's sad. I feel bad for the whole situation. And it's sad is like everybody gets so mad and talks about the money, and they had to come out and defend themselves. They're like, we don't have anything to do with that. Like, don't blame us. And I feel bad because everybody wants to bomb it. All the fighters are bombing on it. I'm like, guys, you're kind of cutting your own throat here. I'm like, if we could have embraced this thing, maybe, could have turned it into something that could have benefited everybody. And I know every guy in the undercard does not complain about getting $2,500. Because I know when I was in those guys' shoes, I didn't get $2,500. Yeah, the champions are getting bid too. They're not complaining. It is the middle class. The middle class always gets fucked. Trust me, I'm losing a shit ton of money in sponsorships, but it is what it is, man. It's just it takes time to change, and I don't think bitching and complaining about stuff like everybody's been doing isn't going to make it better. We got to think a way to be positive and to help each other. And whatever. All right, I'm done.
Oh, by the way, I just wanted to ask you, since you were there, did a lot of fans complain about the T-shirt, the Ireland T-shirt?
I didn't ask because I know, again, negative.
Okay.
Like I've seen enough.
All right.
I seen the hate. Like people were definitely pissed. And again, I just really felt bad because it was just such a big mistake. It was like, man, just shooting yourself in the foot over and over again. But I was gonna say that it was like I was talking about when Dustin was saying about it in the arena. I think he must have got there later because I actually think Carroll came out was. Yeah, I was there. That was I was going to say. I was in the arena for GSP in Toronto. Was 55,000 people, right?
Yeah.
Carroll came out and it was fucking 10 times louder. Like seriously, I think it was because of the song. He came out to the ole 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 that place. I was so fucking mad at Stipe then. I was like, we could be the main event right now, and I would be owning this crowd. And I was, it was tough to be there.
But that is your goal, right?
Sitting there.
You want to be on one of those cards with Connor, like the ultimate Dublin experience, right?
Oh, dude, he fights on Croke Park, man. I'm gonna like, I don't ask Dana for anything, but I'm gonna be like, you gotta put me on a fucking card. Yeah, for sure. It's insane. Like I've been 16 years in the sport, and like, that is what I've been fighting for. I want to fight in front of a crowd like that. I fuel off it, man. The more the crowd's like that, like, the more my opponent's going to get fucked up.
Ben Rothwell, you are a gift, my friend. Thank you very much. A pleasure as always. Love talking to you. You always have a home here, so anytime you got something to get off your chest, we'd love to hear from you. Enjoy your last couple of days in Dublin. Amazing work over there. It's amazing. You definitely stole the show. You gave those people something to talk about, something to remember, and I think that means a lot to them, even more so to many of them than seeing two particular guys fight in the main event. So kudos to you. I tip my cap and looking forward to your return sooner rather than later.
Well, thank you, sir. I think it's great. I'm glad that I could be here and I could be the guy for you to lean on.
Yes.
Let you vent your frustrations on too. I'm there for you too, man.
Thank you.
Anytime you need that, you just get me on the line for you.
Thank you, Ben. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, there he is, Ben Rothwell. And it's funny he ended the interview on that note because I will admit I did come to the show today in a sour mood and then losing a couple of guests. And John, I should say, John Kavanagh was supposed to join us, but apparently it's some kind of holiday in Ireland, and he has some family obligations, and I don't hold a grudge there. I understand he's been more than gracious with his time, so no hard feelings whatsoever, and I know that he would happily come on in the future. The last-minute nature of it all kind of threw us for a loop, but I got to say, I came into today's show feeling in a sour mood, and then you walk away with, Gus, Ashling Daly, Poirier, Cummins, Rothwell, just to name a few, like just such great people that remind me how lucky I am to do a show like this and talk to wonderful human beings like that. Can't sweat those small things. So I appreciate them, perhaps on a week like this more so than usual. Let's blow through Inside the Vault for this week because I want to get to some questions. I want to hear from Mr. New York Rick. who also deserves some credit this week because there were a lot of moving parts, and he put it all back into place with getting Dustin and Aisling on, so I appreciate him as well. New York Rick, are you there?
I'm here.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Well, I just
bring the energy up. It was a good show.
Yeah. Why? Do you feel the energy being down right now?
Yeah, you sound a little.
All show long or just right now?
No, just now.
Yeah. The Vitor thing bummed me out, and I don't like that it's evolved into to this other thing. So I almost regret bringing it, but I was just upset. I wasn't upset. Disappointed. I should say disappointed. Maybe it's the same freaking word, but I don't. You know what really kind of put me over the edge? Can I tell you?
Sure.
It was this text. I thought I could count on you as you could always count on us. What is that? I never went back on my word. I never said. I didn't say I'm not going to talk about something and then I did. What is that all about? That's weak. That's what put me over the edge.
Understandable.
So, I don't know.
But we had a great show in spite of that.
We did, and that's worth celebrating.
We got to hear from Aisling Daly.
That was beautiful.
From the birthday, which was fun.
One thing we need to figure out is when we get a late replacement guest, how do we get the graphics up there,
We're working on something.
Are you?
Actually. We are.
Oh, wow.
We just discussed it today, actually.
Oh, that's good. I should have said, it's always funny when someone does a tape thing and they're like, oh, we're talking to Aisling Daly, 10 minutes below the hour. We're talking to Aisling Daly here on 92.9. But in that case, with no graphic and a live show, I should have probably said, by the way, we're talking to Aisling Daly.
Right, the radio announcer voice.
Yes.
Sitting here with Aisling Daly.
A couple more questions for Aisling Daly, joining us from a birthday party over in Dublin. All right, do we got any questions?
We have questions.
Okay, remind me to tell you about a funny story that happened to me last week.
Let's do it between website questions and Twitter.
Let's do it.
First one, website. The curious case of Joe Duffy, because of the short notice injury and not being able to fight in the spotlight that he would have had against a named opponent. Do you think this ruins the hype train for Joe Duffy, or are you still interested in a bigger role for him in the UFC?
Oh, I'm super interested. I don't think it ruins it. I think it slows it down a little bit. That was a big fight for him, and it was on a big stage. Can the stars align where he gets a fight like Poirier in Dublin to, of course, lead up to that big Conor McGregor rematch? So it definitely slows things down. And, concussions are such a tricky thing. As we talked about on the MMA Beat, look at Chris Holdsworth. Look at TJ Grant. I don't know if there's anything, they called it a mild concussion, but can a concussion really be mild? All concussions are very serious.
Sure.
And we've learned that, especially in the last couple of years. So hopefully he comes back very soon, but I wouldn't be surprised if Poirier fights someone else.
Yeah, but if they both get a win,
the
storyline is there to have that rebooked. So I think delayed is the right way to phrase it, because I don't think he loses any shine. He got hurt, and just like anybody could, and then he's going to come back. And if he picks up a win, if Dustin picks up a win, I think they could rebook that pretty easily, and the storyline is there.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying, I wouldn't just disregard a concussion that easily.
Sure.
Concussions are serious, especially in this game. Hopefully it's not that serious.
I think there are levels of severity for sure, and it seems like his, by all accounts, it is on the lesser end of that scale.
Who knows, really?
But yeah, there's always there's the possibility of recurring symptoms, so we'll see.
I actually disagree. For the UFC to pull the plug on a main event makes me think it was pretty serious. You know what I mean?
That is a fair point. But, I mean, if you can't get cleared by the doctor, then you can't get cleared by the doctor. So, you know.
It's true. It does come down to the doctor.
No matter what, the severity is judged by the doctor, not the UFC, which is great. That's what we want. Why can't Rothwell get any love from the UFC brass? And then we had a little GIF here. It's not playing, obviously, because I took in a screenshot. But I think he has paid his dues. He's a strong heavyweight.
What was it, by the way?
Fun to watch. I forget. What is this? So the win over Vera, maybe?
I can't really tell.
I think, yeah. A legend for knocking out the Reem, and he's becoming a cult hero with his Rothwell shuffle. Is it just me, or does it feel like they are still punishing him? It almost feels like they expected Stipe to win, and I've already rewarded him for it. What happens to Rothwell next? He deserves a top 5 to 3. I've never seen it that way, actually, in reverse order. He deserves a top 5 opponent, in my opinion. He definitely deserves to be considered for a title shot before Overeem. Is he not getting the love?
Yeah, I don't know. know. I mean, I guess that's more of a question for them. The timing was a little curious, to say the least. I think if he gets Barnett, I think that's a pretty damn good fight. But I don't know if he's going to get Barnett. The Mir fight, you know, I kind of thought Mir won that fight against Arlovsky. So while he doesn't have, you know, a win on his record in his most recent fight, it's not a huge step back. I just think the part that really bothered him the most, understandably so, was that the guy who he was supposed to fight got booked on the week that they were there. I mean, that's the timing. And I know they were selling tickets and everything, and they had to do it. So I don't think they have anything against Rothwell necessarily. Maybe he's not.
Should he be getting a bigger push? I mean, after today's show, he was.
Gosh, I think Ben Rothwell is great. Of course, it's not all about interviews and whatnot, but look what he's done as of late. His fights are very entertaining.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. Do you feel like he's still paying for that testosterone thing?
I don't, but I think he could be getting a bigger push. I think he's, you know, a personality that seems to be catching on. But, you know, this is something that can happen. Is it seems like his popularity, is organic right now. And then once the machine kind of gets behind you, then people turn. Then people are less interested. So maybe the best thing is that it seems like it still continues to be organic. That might be the best thing that's happening for him.
I love when an athlete, in particular in this sport, puts himself out there to the people and the people respond, and that's what's happening here. It's kind of like, you know, this term is, I know, a favorite of yours, and it's kind of gone in a whole other direction, but he's become a people's fighter, you know, sort of like the people's main event. He's become one of those guys that regardless of where he is on the card, there's a group of people, and that group continues to grow and grow and grow, that he just has this connection with, and that's a connection that's hard to establish, especially this late in one's career, but he's doing a fantastic job. I saw him at International Fight Week in July, and he was hanging with everyone, taking pictures. He just loves it, and why shouldn't he? This whole stretch for him is not going to last forever, so it's always weird when a fighter doesn't open himself up to it and appreciate the ride along the way.
What was the people's main event?
Back when?
For this last card?
Well, this one kind of was a weird one. But,
okay, so what would have been the people's main event then? Let's say it stayed intact.
From the beginning?
From the beginning.
It probably would have been, well, it's a weird thing because, like, for the world, it's Rothwell Miocic, but Paddy Holohan, if he was, you know, the opening fight of the night for that area, I think would have been the Irish people's main event. But for the entire...
Wow, we're branching off now to Irish people's main event.
No. For the local crowd. But, no, for the world, like, if someone would have asked me before and the card was intact, yeah, of course, Rothwell Miocic. It almost felt like that fight was too good in a weird way for this Fight Pass show.
I feel like we are entering dangerous territory, though, if we start having now the local
no, that's not what I'm
people's
saying.
main event.
But you
we're
notice
gonna
that
have the people's main event.
Everyone's using this word like it was a word before. I'm sorry. No one used this before I used it. And quite frankly, I would like some freaking recognition. Tired of this.
Next for Norman Park. Stormin Norman wants to be out again as soon as possible. Could he face Dustin Poirier next if Duffy isn't ready to go?
Well, I saw him sort of allude to the fact that he was lighter than ever. I don't know. Maybe 145 is in his future. Let's see. Is he lightweight? Where's lightweight? There it is. Poirier is number 13 as of right now. He's not ranked. I don't hate it. Now there's beef.
I think it's a good fight.
You would do it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm Dustin, I might be a little hesitant.
I mean, Joe Duffy, let's not forget, wasn't ranked either.
Yeah, but his shine is bigger right now,
and it was a local fight for him, and all
but
that.
Good for Norman. He's talking himself into it. I think he might get it.
I don't hate it.
Tom Breeze.
Yes.
Following his impressive and dominant victory over Cathal Pendred, what do you think should be next from?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, off the top of my head, it's still a little early in his career.
But a really, really nice performance.
Like, is it Jake Ellenberger too soon?
What's Jake's last?
Wonder Boy.
Yeah. No, I don't know if that's too soon. I think that might be around the right area.
2-0 in the UFC. 2 nice finishes, first round finishes. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know if Jake Ellenberger wants that, but I mean, of course, he's going to have to fight in February in London. That's a no-brainer.
Sure.
And there is a bit of a movement here with the English fighters.
Mhm.
It seems like there's this, Darren Till, and there's this young generation of English fighters. It took a while, but I see them coming through. I don't know. I don't know if Ellenberger's too soon, but he doesn't have a fight. Maybe him.
Yeah, I think
maybe
I
that's a
think
big
you're
fight
right
for that
about
card.
the London thing though. So we'll see who's available at that time. The crowd singing "Zombie" with
Yes.
Aisling Daly. One of the best moments I can remember from any fight card was Aisling Daly's walkout song and the crowd singing along with her. What did you and I think about it?
Okay, I'm so sorry because I really like that song. I had no idea that the Cranberries were from Ireland. Did you know that?
I did.
I feel like such a moron.
This was on heavy rotation on MTV back when I started watching it.
Oh, it's tremendous. I had no idea they were from Limerick. Isn't that the home of Twitter legend Sean Sheehan?
Could be. I can't speak with authority to that.
Usually back in the day he would respond within seconds, but he doesn't watch the show anymore.
We'll see. I think he might respond to that.
Yeah.
You're calling him out.
Well, I mean, only when it pertains to him does he ever actually pay attention to the show. Now that he's, got his own podcast, credentialed and all that. I remember when his only claim to fame was that he would send in pictures of himself.
Well, he did. If I recall this correctly, he did go to that press conference that Dana had.
That was it.
That
was the moment.
Started the whole shebang.
I was the one that said follow this guy for the updates, but again, no one remembers. Tired of it. Anyway, it was a fantastic moment. I loved it. Patty's walkout was great. Neil Series was great. It was all great. It was exactly as expected. Although this time around, it didn't really end on the high note. I really felt for Patty. Not to take anything away from Smolka, because what a fight! Did you watch that fight?
Of course, I watched the whole card.
It was such an entertaining fight. I do mean it when I say it. Like a fight like that with the transitions on the ground, and Peter put it perfectly. Like putting yourself in compromising positions to gain positions elsewhere. I mean, it's just so much fun to watch. It's really, to me, a lot more fun than a Rock'em Sock'em Robot type of fight. Just a slugfest.
I can appreciate both. But I very much enjoyed it. No, come on with that. Yeah. I can appreciate both. And this one was, fun to watch for sure.
So anyway,
the walkout.
Aisling
Daly.
It was great. I didn't really, what? I guess the accent in the song, and I don't know a lot of other Cranberry songs. Do you?
No, just this one.
They're not a one-hit wonder, though.
I don't think so. I mean, I've heard of them past that, but this was the one I remember the music video on the roller coaster.
It was a beautiful moment. It really was. And you can hear the people singing along, and she was talking about with her mental health issues and, with the lyrics of the song. It was great.
Dustin even mentioned it today.
Yeah, I'm so happy that she got to have that moment because she really felt like the only one who couldn't do it, and she had to watch. She was in this house. She's probably depressed as hell last year, and everyone's winning. Somewhat fitting in a weird way that she was the only SPG fighter to pick up a win on Saturday.
Michael Venom Page, there's a lot here, but basically, isn't it time MVP was put up against some fighters on his own level?
Yes, Jesus.
The thought is that he, Charlie Ontiveros was not a game opponent in
He's
James
a lot
Gore's
of fun.
opinion.
He's a lot of fun to watch, but yes, maybe Brennan Ward, who fought on that card.
Sure.
And is an entertaining guy. I think that would be a nice step up for him, right?
Well, I mean, it comes down to this. Do we want to continue to see the highlight reel kind of dancing and showboating?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
What, you don't think so?
I don't know. I kind of like it. I'm not...
How many more times are we going to see it? It's the same thing every time. I've seen this movie.
Yeah.
MMA is different than boxing. Like in boxing, you get like 20 or so fights, and then all of a sudden you're now you're getting the limelight. In MMA, like we see it 2 or 3 times. All right, we've seen it. I want to see you get tested. And guess what? The loss doesn't mean as much, I think, in MMA. Like he can lose in his next fight and then bounce back, and no one will talk about it.
What can happen is if he gets put on that stage and then the showboating and the dancing and the flash isn't there against tougher opponents, then he might lose a little bit.
Yeah, I know, but like, is MVP really selling out arenas for Bellator?
No, probably not.
In that division, I got to tell you, I mean, there's not a lot going on there right now for them.
Yeah.
So
I think it's time for a step up.
Yeah.
But I'm also okay.
Put it this way, I'm not hating on what they've done up until this point, but I don't want to see more of it.
Now the next move.
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with them, building it up a little bit, but at some point, let's just take a little step up.
Yeah, and that actually makes me think like these things can happen fast. Carvalho is now champion.
You see that? Wow, what a kick!
Yeah. John Jones, what are your thoughts on the reinstatement of John Jones, and how long do you expect it will be before there is an announcement made regarding his return fight?
Well, it was obviously expected. It was time to do it. It had been a couple of weeks since he had his plea hearing, and he was all set there. So, yeah, they had to do it. Everyone. I mean, the big question was he going to fight? And I think it was very clear from those Instagram videos that he was ready to resume his career. I think they're going to wait for New York. I mean, they don't have to announce anything yet. I don't know if is January too late in the game? I think, look, they have to wait at least till January to see what's going to go on in New York. Is it going to go up for a vote? If not, they're going to go the legal route. And I don't know if that's going to work out. But April 23rd, regardless, sounds like a good time. I don't know if you can save him till 200 at this point. I feel like that's too far away. Is it not? It's in 9 months.
You know what? Didn't we say the same thing, though, when they were building up Cormier Jones? Like, it's too far away. This loses. I think that the anticipation, no matter what, is going to be high. It's going to be good. So if John Jones doesn't fight until the end of next year, I think it's all gravy. Just getting him back is the treat here, fight-wise. And I think the anticipation is going to build and build and build no matter what. And once it gets closer, oof.
But if New York gets done, it has to be New York.
Absolutely.
Forget about 200.
And I think he would want the same thing. Does the punishment fit the crime for John Jones? John Jones has been known to have a substance abuse problem, crashes his car into a pregnant woman's vehicle, flees the scene, only returning to grab loose money before fleeing again. He gets less than a year. Is the UFC sending the right message? I guess let's phrase the question this way. Should the UFC had their own punishment for John Jones outside of the legal punishment?
Well, I mean, I think he was punished. He was suspended. So he had a fight taken away, UFC 187 fight. He had his belt taken away. As a result, he had sponsors taken away. They waited until the hearing was done. They say they did their own investigation. What more do you want?
That's fair enough. And I think we go down a slippery slope if, we punish somebody beyond what, the court or whatever else is deemed appropriate.
Oh,
now,
and by the way, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
By the way, let's just say he fights in April, and I doubt he fights before April. It will have been almost a year and a half, a year and a third since his last fight. So this guy's not making a lot of money these days.
Yeah.
What'd you want to say?
No, that was it.
You were on to say that exact point?
That was it. I was going to be like, no. How many more mistakes can Reebok handle? I've heard the question been asked a few times. Should the UFC cancel the Reebok deal? I don't think that's obviously an option.
Sure.
Is the deal here to stay, or could things change dramatically? How many more fails can happen before this deal is in serious jeopardy? So far, the deal has cost numerous fighters a lot of money, and Reebok themselves keep embarrassing themselves. What are your thoughts? Can things change, or do we have to wait to see how things pan out?
I think things will change. I think they'll figure it out. But it is an amazing stretch of mishaps.
Now, do you feel there was an overreaction to that situation?
I'm so happy you asked that question. Which situation? The T-shirt?
Yes, the T-shirt. You want to recap it for people?
I feel like you're setting me up here. So John Kavanaugh, I think he was the one that brought it to light. Maybe someone else, but he's the one that, he's the most famous one who brought it to light, at least in my eyes. There was a T-shirt from Reebok, an Ireland T-shirt that had a map of Ireland on it, and it excluded Northern Ireland. And it said, what did it say on it? Did it just say like Ireland?
Just said Ireland underneath, yeah.
That's it? It didn't say anything else?
As far as I can remember, I think it just said Ireland. I think there was additional text, but in terms of defining the geography, it just said Ireland.
Really? Let me just...
No, I think there was additional text. I'm not remembering what it was off the top of my head, but geographically, it just said Ireland.
Okay, so here it is. It said UFC Ireland map. It said Ireland on top and bottom UFC, which is like kind of a weird shirt to begin with. But anyway, so he brings this to light, and he says, this is a big problem because the Northern Ireland part of the map is excluded, and John is someone obviously proud of his heritage, but also dates someone from Belfast, which is in Northern Ireland, and he had a big problem with, as he put it, in his very well written explanation on Twitter, he had a big problem with the tagline "Show your territorial allegiance." The reason I was so annoyed by that T-shirt was because of the tagline, "Show your territorial allegiance." My girlfriend is from Belfast, a city that has experienced a lot of senseless killings on both sides. This type of rhetoric only serves to fuel negative emotions and bring out the worst in us. For the record, I'm not interested in political arguments. I'm more of a Carl Sagan type of person. We're all in this pale blue dot for a few short decades trying to find happiness. We are all one after all. I'm happy to see it's been removed from their site, and I'm sure future designs will be more thoughtful. Also, for my geographically challenged friends, Ireland refers to the entire island, which is made up of the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. I'm happy to leave this behind now and get focused on another great weekend of UFC action. So that says it all. He wants it to be all-encompassing. He doesn't want any political messages, and who can blame him? And he had every right, and I thought he put it very succinctly and perfectly. But then spare me all these media members and fans, but more so the media members, with this faux outrage over this T-shirt. Like, let's be real. You wouldn't have noticed this if it wasn't for his tweets. Come on. Let's stop pretending like you're all up in arms and all offended about all this. All right. Let the thing pass. It's brought to light. It's been addressed. And let's move on. I mean, you can move on after the fact and say this is a series of mishaps, but come on. You know this. There are a lot of people out there who are acting like, their mom was just slapped and spit in the face because of this, and they would not have noticed it had it not been brought to their attention. Do you agree with me?
Of course. I mean, I'm not personally offended by it, as I'm not Irish, and it wouldn't have meant... Yeah, I wouldn't have recognized it. I don't know Irish geography in that way. And, not being Irish, it didn't personally offend me. It didn't, my concern or issue with it was, the lack of research. It was just lazy, I guess. And that part is the part to me that people would be upset about. But, if I was Irish, I would definitely have a different take on it, I think, from Northern Ireland or somebody,
Yeah, 100%. I'm not saying that anyone from Ireland, including anyone, had any right not to be upset, that they shouldn't have been offended. I mean, I agree with them 100%. It's a ridiculous T-shirt. It's silly. It's offensive. It's political. There's no place for that. I mean, what they were thinking when they put that out there, it looked lazy. It's not even a nice shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. There's nothing good you could say about that shirt. All I'm talking about, based off of your question, was what do you think of the reaction? I chuckled when I saw some people acting like this is a big deal, personal issue to them. It's not. So, stop it with this faux outrage.
Sure.
That's all. But it was ridiculous, and I'm happy they rectified it. And when they're going to figure this out, I don't know. It just seems like one thing after the next, and I wish they could almost take a step back, breathe, come out with a line. And if you're working with a John Kavanaugh, if you're working with an SBG, run that stuff by them when you want to get all, territorial.
That's a fair point. I see a lot of people saying that, Reebok didn't know what they were stepping into with MMA. And I think that could or could not be the case. But in my opinion, this is more indicative of a Reebok thing than anything to do with MMA. Like, the fans 100%. Are outspoken in MMA.
This wouldn't fly anywhere else.
If this had been in, the MLB or related to any other, sports league, the people would have had the same reaction. So I don't know if this is particularly indicative of anything to do with MMA, more so than, Reebok putting out a shirt.
But as I said with when this deal was announced, let's give it a year or so, because there's a lot that has been left to be desired here, and I'd like to see the uniforms, the kits evolve, make them less uniform. I'm not a huge fan of all the nationalistic stuff. I mean, there's a lot that can change, and I'd like to think in 7 years they'll figure it out. But thus far, I think anyone would agree, it has not been a great debut for them in this sport.
Yeah, I mean, you have to learn on the fly. It's going to be tough, and I think things will look differently. The Athletic Commission and Nick Diaz, has the NAC written up their findings yet and the punishment for Diaz so he can move forward in his appeal process? Any idea where that all stands? At last I heard they still not have done so.
No, well, it's really in the hands now of his legal team, and he has a great team behind him, so we'll see what happens there as far as the appeal is concerned. There is another hearing this Thursday, but last I heard he wasn't on the docket, so this is their next appearance from that infamous one on September 15th, in which his livelihood was taken away from him unjustly, taken away 5 years. He was given a suspension for 5 years over a questionable, at best, drug failure or drug failures. So, I doubt that they're going to address it, but it would be nice. What a great turn of events. What a nice way to end this depressing story if they come out and say, upon further review, we realized that we abused our power and we didn't give him a right to defend himself and all this, and we're going to change. We're going to throw this one out and start fresh. Wow. How amazing would that be?
I mean, I think they'd curry pretty good favor with it. It seems like a good move rather than doubling down on it, but I guess we'll see how that goes. Last one from the website, then you're going to tell a good story, right?
Oh, yes.
What did you make of the recent cuts with more to come, looking more and more like there will be less shows next year? Why the decision to go with less shows, and how will this affect Fox, FS1, pay-per-view, and Fight Pass?
What a leap that is. The guy goes from cuts to less shows?
There were quite a few cuts.
I know, but, I mean, there are also a lot of fighters who keep saying that they can't get a fight, right? You don't think you think like a who's the guy recently that was telling me Benavidez. Benavidez was saying that, you know, he fights twice a year, and he can't get a fight. You don't think he wants to fight 3-4 times a year?
Yep.
So I don't know if all these cuts, you know, equals less shows. I don't think that there are any surprising ones or egregious ones. The one that I found to be questionable was Eddie Gordon last fought in June, announced that he was moving down to 170, and then he got cut in October. And who knows what he could have done between June and October. So, you know, the timing, of course, they have to clear the books, whatever they have to do, when they have to do it. But that one I was a little bit surprised by, just because it had been so long since he had last fought, and he was, you know, changing his weight class and all that stuff. But none of them really jumped out at me. How about you?
Palele, but that was a retirement.
Yeah.
So
maybe that helped him retire.
Sure.
But otherwise?
Yeah, I mean, no, nothing like too shocking.
Yeah.
Unfortunate to see Marcus Brimage go, though. I didn't get a chance to talk about it next week, but you mentioned it, that interview that you did with him that we played for Inside the Vault really, you know, spurred me to
if it wasn't for that interview, you're probably not there,
yeah,
right?
Marcus,
you're not in that seat.
I owe it to Marcus Brimage and you.
It was amazing. I wish I could go back in time and replay that whole thing, sitting there as you're watching this interview and saying, you know what? This is where I need to be in life.
Yeah. It very much was that.
So my computer broke. My son cracked my screen, and I went to this computer store in Williamsburg called Mikey's Hookup. By the way, great people over there. I give them 2 thumbs up. They do great work, and they didn't pay me to say that. And I'm standing there in the store, and a guy walks in holding a dog like a baby. Dog is like this big, holding it in his arms. And he puts the dog on the table. My computer case is there, and the dog starts walking. And I don't remember the dog's name, but let's just call it Minnie. And he's like, "Oh, Minnie, don't walk on Ariel's computer." And I look up. I was like, "Ariel's computer? How do you know who's this guy? How do you know my name?" I start thinking for a second, and I start putting two and two together. And I say to him, "Are you Doug Crosby?" And he said, "Yes, I am."
What?
And I've never seen Doug Crosby in person. In fact, I don't even know if I've ever Googled him. I don't even know what he looks like. And as you may know, Chuck Mindenhall wrote a feature story on him, #longform, not that long ago. And so the timing was very interesting. So he comes in there. He's a ball of energy. And I'm not even quite sure what he wanted to do. I think he was asking them to put music on his iPod Shuffle. I kid you not.
Yikes.
So I pass off my computer, and then we go outside, and we proceed to have this hour-long conversation, which I will not get into too much, but it's he's standing up against his car, still holding his dog now back in his hands, and it was a fascinating conversation. It went through some ups and some downs. I think we ended it on a good note. I think he took exception with some things that have been said on this show. I think for the most part he liked Chuck's article, but it was just I just couldn't believe that. And apparently he worked just a couple of blocks away from there. That's where his office is. So it was just I just couldn't believe that I ran into him, especially a week after or 2 weeks after that story came out, and he was every bit as colorful, unique,
eccentric.
Yes, as you would expect him to be. I will say, at times it got a little testy, but in the end we figured things out. Just another day in the life.
Now, was the assistant there?
Okay, so the assistant, he maintains that the assistant is a very real person.
Didn't we get this verified by Chuck? I think in the piece he says.
But she was not there.
And did you go to a bathhouse?
I did not go to a bathhouse, no.
I think you missed out. Seems like Chuck had a good time there. Wow.
I didn't have the pleasure.
You did not tell me this story before the show.
No, and by the way, I'm giving you like literally 2% of the story. It's really a lot more involved, and it probably doesn't sound, in fairness, as exciting as it was when it was happening. But take my word for it, it was a very interesting 1 hour in my life last week.
Okay, moving on to Twitter questions. Yes. Turning down a late replacement fight, good or bad call? And then they say this is definitely bad for the UFC's business. But is it a good or bad call?
Well, I guess it depends on who you are, and what you're trying to do. I think if you're in the main event and you fought as many times as Dustin Poirier has fought, I don't think it's a good or bad call. I mean, it's just the call that you need to make that makes the most sense for you. If you're a guy who's fighting, in his debut and you're looking to get in, good favor with them, then yeah, I mean, I could understand why you would take that fight. Everyone's in a different spot on a different journey with different resumes, have accomplished different things. I don't think it's fair for any of us to criticize a professional athlete with everything on the line like Dustin Poirier, who has shown up time and again, who is no BITCH, and question his heart. This is a guy who signed up to fight in a cage in front of thousands of people in his opponent's home country and was there. He was ready to go. He was like 3 days away. And now we're going to, question his heart and his motives and his warrior spirit because he turned down a completely different other fight? What kind of bizarre world do we live in here? What is this sport? Is it even a sport, if that's the case? And let's be clear, it's a vocal minority doing it. As he said a couple of times now, the UFC, Dana White, they all said to him, feel no pressure, and I'm very happy. That's a sign of the times as well. Things have changed, and that's great. So who cares what the media or fellow fighters or other fans say on Twitter? It's what he feels, what his team feels, and if the UFC's on board with that, then it's a no-brainer.
Well, outside of just the obvious ridiculousness of questioning, Dustin Poirier as a fighter and his, will and all that stuff, what would have been the upside? I don't see an argument. I haven't been, presented an argument that makes sense logically, a reason for him to take that fight.
I mean, look, if he needed the money,
But if he needed the money, he would have taken the fight. So that one's out.
Yeah. So what are you saying?
I'm saying that there is no reason for him to have taken that fight.
Sure.
There's not a good argument for it. It does him no favors to face somebody who is, regarded in this circumstance, rankings-wise, lower than the opponent he was originally going to face on short notice, and for a win that likely wouldn't have given him that much, advancement in the rankings. It doesn't make sense. There's not an argument I could hear that would make sense for him to have taken that fight, unless he needed the money, but he turned it down, so he doesn't need that money.
The co-main event thing is weird as well.
Yeah, that is a little weird.
Why does he get bumped down?
Yeah, if you wanted to be, if that would have been the deciding factor, that could have been, easily avoided. Just go to the main event. Okay, Rory let slip at a Q&A.
Oh, yes.
That he has talked to GSP about returning, and it would be for super fights like at UFC 200. GSP versus Anderson Silva next July. What do you think?
Was this a two-part question?
That was it.
What just happened there?
Switched it, two-parter.
Wow, that's a first. Same guy?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know. What do you think? Are you into this fight?
I would love to see that fight. Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
At what weight?
Let's say at this point, probably 185, right? Why make GSP... Although GSP might want Anderson to come down if he could still reliably make 170. I would still love to see this fight. For sure, I'd love to see this fight.
Nah, I don't know.
Now, there's circumstances outside. Like, do I think that GSP needs to come back or should come back or anything like that? I don't. I think his legacy is set. I think Anderson Silva's legacy is set. I don't think they need this fight. But if they told me both these guys are for sure coming back, and both of them are going to fight each other, I would be super, super excited to see it.
It does feel more and more like we're gearing up for a return. I wouldn't be surprised if Anderson fights on the Kane Verdum card.
I like that.
And that will be earlier on UFC 200, obviously. I don't know. It doesn't get me excited.
The signs seem to be pointing to GSP coming back, though. Faraz seems like he's saying it. Rory seems like he's saying it. So, Final question. Have you guys ever considered bringing back the Rick's Picks Challenge? That was fun. The answer is yes.
Yes. Where is it? I keep asking you for it.
Yeah, it's tough.
Excuses. Hashtag excuses.
It's tough, but you will see something soon.
What?
I will
what are we going to see?
I will put together a plan for...
What plan?
For Rick's Picks.
Make your damn picks. What do you need a plan for?
No. Not my picks.
Oh.
He's interested in the tournament, the challenge that we did, the whole shebang.
It has been a while since we had one of those.
Yes,
right?
It may make sense to bring this back. So
same one?
No, it might be slightly different.
What a wild time that was. Remember that? I don't even know how we even put that together. You did most of the work.
Most?
All? Well,
yes.
I picked the people. Didn't I pick the people?
I don't think so.
That took some work. Yeah, I remember the tweets. You picked the people? That wouldn't make any sense. I made the matchups. I remember that.
Yeah, that was fun though. It was great. It was an exciting time, a strenuous time. Really.
Why strenuous?
Well, because remember the first time I had it in the bag with Gilbert Melendez.
Oh yeah.
And
boy, did you
the judges really didn't help me out on that.
You went for the Hail Mary.
I went for a Hail Mary and I saw it in his hands and then they ruled it an incomplete catch. But then I hit it eventually. And
did you?
Yeah, remember?
Well, I was
John Jones.
I was
Benavidez.
thinking about the Jason High debacle. What was that? Who did he fight?
Eric Silva.
Gosh,
I had so much faith in Jason High. I still do.
By the way, if Jason High fought Eric Silva tomorrow, I'd pick Jason High.
Would you really?
I would. You wouldn't? I feel like the Eric Silva bandwagon has.
I always thought that.
Emptied.
That's why I made that pick. It was now. Should I have put everything on it? No, but I really wanted to go for broke on it, and it seemed like a good spot to push all in. But in hindsight, not so great. But we'll do something. Rick's Picks may return.
May now. Now you say May?
I have to, it takes a lot of time.
It felt more definitive a minute ago.
Okay, it's coming back.
Okay.
So, in some form.
Okay. Oh.
That's it.
That's it?
That's it.
Chanchian say, ye put out a tweet? What kind of English is this? And best replies got into the tournament. Gray Maynard screwed me. Notice he didn't respond to my criticisms earlier, but we don't have time for that anymore. We have reached our end. That's it. Thank you, Mr. New York Rick. Any shows coming up this weekend? No, I think it's a pretty quiet weekend, right? It's Halloween. What are you dressing up as?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Oh, anniversary. That's what's this week.
What anniversary? You just got married.
Rumble in the Jungle.
Oh, that? I thought it was like the 2 week
of my wedding.
That's wait. You're dressing up as one of those guys?
No, but I'm wearing the shirt right now.
I don't believe you that you're not going out for Halloween.
I can't remember the last time I wore a costume.
I don't believe
Halloween.
you. Really?
I'm trying to think. What was the last thing I did? You know what I did? Back in high school, I wore a Rick Brunson jersey and went as Rick Brunson.
Rick Brunson?
Rick Brunson.
Of the New York Knicks.
New York Knicks fame.
They even sold Rick Brunson jerseys back then?
I had to custom it.
Wow. And why Rick Brunson? Because your name is Rick?
Because he was such a loved bench warmer.
Yeah, I love that.
I wanted to go as that.
That's bizarre.
Everybody's wearing, Michael Jordan and all these people. I thought Rick Brunson really encapsulated my...
That's your last Halloween outfit?
It was, yeah.
That's bizarre. He is an NBA coach now. No, not NBA. College coach.
Yeah.
Or is he an assistant coach? He's something.
No, I think he's coaching somewhere else, not
and
NBA.
I think his son is a player as well.
So
basically, you're not doing anything.
Wait, what's your move?
Well, I have kids, so.
And what are they going as? What's the Halloween plan?
I don't know if I could link that. No, Ninja Turtles. My son is very into the Ninja Turtles these days.
I like that.
He's starting to evolve. His interests are starting to get a little more and more mature, so it's interesting to see. But no, these people. I was talking to Mark Ramundi and I think Luke Thomas. Yeah, Luke, when we were eating, and they're talking about their outfits and making outfits. And I'm
Wait,
like,
what? Luke Thomas is into this Halloween thing? I
Look,
can't see that.
It was somewhat off the record, the conversation, but yes, believe it or not, it appears as though he is. And look, I'm not going to pass judgment, but it has been a long time since I planned out my Halloween costume, if any costume.
Wait a minute. So I'm getting all this flack, and now you're like, oh, it's been a long time, too, for you.
I don't even know if I ever did. I mean, yeah, maybe in
Of
the
course
third
you did.
grade.
I mean,
was never into
that
I always
photo
felt
that
like
they showed on the Christian Leitner
that was
documentary
a
looked like
day
you were
in the
dressing
life. That was
up
a
for
day in the
Halloween.
life, dog. That was me on the mean streets of Montreal. That was a day in the life representing the struggle.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Oh, boy.
Well,
All right.
happy Halloween to yous and everyone else out there. Have a safe one, and don't do anything I wouldn't do. Hit my music, everyone. All right. Another fun show in the books. Thank you for the pick-me-up. What a day it has been. For the record, I just want to say, I have not talked to Vitor, and no hard feelings. You know, like I said, if they would have said back on Wednesday of last week, hey, we don't want to talk about this. If you're planning on talking about this, maybe we should hold off. That's happened before. And I say, yeah, it's your prerogative. But 2 hours before the interview, after it's already been promoted, is kind of what, you know, gets under my skin a little bit. So, water under the bridge, a great show. All's well that ends well. Any other cliche you want to use. Happy that it all worked out. Thank you very much to Pizzi Carroll. Great name, Pizzi Carroll, for his time today. Great work as always. Thank you very much to Malki Kawa. Looking forward to the return of Johnny Bones. Thank you very much to Alexander Gustafsson. Looking forward to his return in due time as well. Great stuff as always from Dustin Poirier. Appreciate his time. Tremendous stuff from Aisling Daly. I'll take that interview every single week, times 10. Congratulations to her. Best of luck to Patrick Cummins, November 7th versus Glover Teixeira. What an interesting fight that is. And tremendous work, as always, by Big Ben McRothwell. Appreciate his time as well. Back next week. If you missed anything, check it out. iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, MMAfighting.com, all that good stuff. Until then, say peace. I'm out of here.